Hi everyone, welcome to Experiential Realism. Today I've got my dear friend Stephen Wollard of the Hermetic Idealism channel, and we're going to be discussing metaphysics, especially idealism. I hope you enjoy.
All right.
Here we go.
Okay,
Hello,
I
Steve.
see.
Hello,
Hey,
Stephen.
man. Nice to have a live talk. We haven't
Yeah,
done a live talk.
finally. I mean, I've been waiting
Yeah.
for this for so long, really. When we
Yeah. Just things haven't worked out.
yeah, because since I've met you, I've already had so many people on, and it just didn't make sense to me for some reason. I've met some people after you, and I've managed to have them on, and with us, it just never happened. We never found the time for it for some reason. But yeah, good to see you finally. And after
Well,
all, you're the person that inspired me to name the channel Experiential Realism.
yeah.
you know, and I know you didn't come up with the term, but I think you heard someone mention the term
It, it,
online.
it was Mike Todd had found it and showed it to me and John Peter a long time ago. And we,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
well, I just got done with that doing a course that
yeah,
starts with realism. So during that course that were pre-recorded,
yeah.
I gave a little talk about how, I'd been talking to some guys and somebody found this term, and it was, well, they were trying to describe conscious realism, and they were saying that it's a type of experiential realism, and that's how it took off.
Yeah,
Some blogger. I don't even know who it was.
yeah,
I've tried to find that blog, but it's not. So I don't think anybody owned it or anything. It was just a loose term.
yeah.
And what struck me about it at first was that a conscious reality is an experiential reality.
That's right.
And then yeah, and then afterwards, I think it was, I don't know, I'm not going to name a lot of names. There was another guy that was making an argument and making a dichotomy between what is it, people? Is it realism or is it idealism? And I was like, false
False
dichotomy.
dichotomy. Yeah,
I was like, idealism is an experiential realism. So that, to me, that's the benefit
yeah.
of it.
And that's
That's
what
really what
made
it is.
perfect sense to me. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I just thought this term captures perfectly what idealism is all about. It's a false
Yeah.
dichotomy between idealism and realism. In fact, I think idealists are more realistic, are realists than materialists,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've come to realize that materialists just deny experience completely. They deny qualia. They think qualia um, are just illusions. They're not real. That the world is devoid of any qualities. It's just mathematics somehow. And it all becomes
Yeah.
very um, you know um, it becomes like a world of abstractions. It just doesn't make any sense. It's almost like they've taken away the realism, whereas idealism
Yeah.
is embracing experience. Experience is reality. So, yeah, I have to thank you for introducing me to that term, really, because
Well,
it's spot on, the term. We are the
yeah. It
realists.
solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, yes, it does. Yes, it
Well,
does.
from what you just said there, the big stinker here is that idealists are being accused of being anti-realist
Yeah,
when what you just said is true. The real anti-realist, if it's anybody at all, would be
it's
the
the materialist.
physicalist, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the way you just described it perfectly.
yeah,
They
I
are
would even
against the realism.
that's right. And I would even go as far as to say that um, the what's called it the neutral monists. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what they call neutral. They have some kind of neutrality. Um, Somehow they imagine a thing in itself, and this thing in itself is neutral, and it contains both the you can derive both the material and the mental, which I think is superfluous, and it also takes away from the reality that we experience, because it's saying what we
Yeah.
experience is only an epiphenomenon. It's only a derivative, and the real reality can't be known. So they make the same mistake that Kant makes, which is he claims to know that there is a thing in itself, there is a noumenon that we can't access. Well, if we can't access, how can we be sure it even exists? And
Yeah.
and that's why we praise Schopenhauer, don't we, for saying that
Yeah.
consciousness is the noumenon. But then again,
Hmm.
Schopenhauer has a concept of the will which seems to be devoid of intentions, and that it's not devoid of intentions. There's something amiss, really. I can't even remember, to be honest.
A blind will,
Evening
right? Isn't
brain.
it sort of a blind will?
Yeah, that's it exactly. It's a blind will, and if it's a blind will, how can it have goals and intentions?
Yeah.
Um, and I think it makes the same mistake that materialists make, because in idealism, and I think this is something that David Bentley Hart pointed out. In idealism, in consciousness, when you when you have intentions, you can actually influence your perception. You can actually create perception out of intention. So, for example, I'm looking at you right now. That's one perception. If I want that perception to change, I just simply look away, and I know that I'm gonna, I have the intention of changing my perception. But materialists say
Yeah.
there is a world without consciousness, without intentions, without perceptions, and somehow that creates perception and awareness and intention. It just doesn't make sense, does it?
And it's to me, yeah, like so a couple of guys like you and me totally get it. I mean, come on. This isn't bragging, but to be honest, we're outthinking people like Schopenhauer. We are
Yeah,
currently in the moment outthinking people like Immanuel Kant. I mean, but in somebody, oh yeah, yeah, right. Well, no, but we can demonstrate it in
yeah,
black and white terms. I can go to the dry erase board and show you. And that's what I'm doing in these courses.
yeah. No, I
Remember when I
rate
came
you,
up with,
man. I
so
really
it's
rate you.
like it's possible to outthink all of these guys. And some people may think that it isn't. You've
Yeah,
just done it just now,
yeah.
you know?
It's almost like we have to guide people, especially the people who are curious about idealism. We have to guide them. Um, we have to show them the logic, the reasoning. We
Yeah.
have to make sure that they take those steps to really understand, because a lot of people think that idealism is the same as solipsism, and I don't
Yeah.
know if you remember what Felipe was saying, of the Uroboric idealism. I think he changed the name of his channel anyway. I
Good,
don't even
because
know if
with
he's
all
an
with all these
idealist anymore.
Ouroboroses, I don't want to be affiliated with this guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Please say another name, not Ouroboros.
yeah. I know exactly. He basically gave the Ouroboros a bad name, because
A bad name.
I quite like the concept. Yeah, which exists in Jungian psychology and stuff like that, and all the symbolism, which you probably know a lot more than me about it. About the iconography and that. But I have to say that he was he refused to go beyond Kant, right?
Yeah.
Because he was
He never made
practically,
it to Schopenhauer, let alone further than
yeah,
Schopenhauer.
yeah, that's right.
The way I see it.
And when I said to him about Schopenhauer, he said to me, "Well, the will isn't consciousness." And I said to him,
Wow.
"How is how can you have a will and intention without consciousness?
Yeah. From
You
not
can't."
thinking.
Yeah,
From not thinking deep enough. That's
yeah,
how. I mean,
yeah,
I'm just going to say it.
yeah,
It could be thought out further. Not to demean people, but the truth is, we're in philosophy here, in mystical philosophy, so we're after the truth.
yeah,
It's not always pretty. It means that some people weren't you applying themselves and weren't thinking,
yeah,
and when others
absolutely.
did, they discovered further. So it is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah,
Speak of
absolutely.
philosophy, right? I mean,
He was trying to say to me that you can't even get past solipsism, and that
yeah,
idealism is a kind of solipsism. But the thing is, solipsism is practically saying that personal minds, personal restricted minds, your mind, my mind, is all
yeah,
that exists. Just one mind like that, just one restricted mind, a finite mind. That's all there is. and everything within that mind is just a figment of the imagination. There's no objective reality whatsoever. And I often said to him, "Why are you talking to me then? Why are you?" And I said to him, right? I know maybe it was
Yeah.
a bit of a trick question to ask him, but I said to him, "How sure are you that solipsism?" Or no, I said to him, how confident are you that solipsism isn't true?" I put it to him like that, and he said 0%, which is almost like saying that he lives solipsism. And I said to him, "Well, that can't be right, because if you'd said to me you were at least 50% confident, I would have bought that, because you are interacting with me right now, you know. So you have to assume
Yeah.
that there's a mind that you're interacting with." And I even said to him, I go beyond the 50%. Because all I have to go by is my sensations. All I have to go by is what appears on my screen of perception, and that tells me that other minds exist out there. You know, right now I'm looking at you. You're on my screen of perception. You're
Yeah.
talking to me. You're an intelligent, sentient being, as far as I can tell from the symbol on my screen of perception. You know, the way I
And
look at you,
this
you look like a human being,
and the animals too.
and the animals too. You know, I look at animals. I
These
look at
are
my
these
dog. I
are
look at
also
your dog.
minds. Yeah.
That's right, and
It's
you can
not just
clearly
humans.
tell
It's like
they've
it's
got
look at all
minds.
the minds.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've got minds.
they've got minds.
He
Yeah,
I don't understand him at all. I don't understand that guy at all. And that's why I eventually, admittedly,
it's
blocked and
weird.
banned him from my,
Yeah,
groups that I'm involved in because I couldn't it just I addressed it and he couldn't seem to get past that. So well,
yeah,
just
you really
move
couldn't.
on. It's reincarnation for you guy. It's like you're gonna have to settle this over several lifetimes, I guess.
Yeah,
He's up for a lot more reincarnation or something.
yeah.
He's not
You
there.
know
He
what?
doesn't have it.
He even tried to say to me, well, uh, even if, because obviously we agree with Kastrup about the mind at large. He even tried to say to me, well, that's a kind of solipsism because you believe in one mind. And I said,
Yeah.
well, hold on a
It's
minute.
not.
It's not the same, because solipsism refers to a personal mind, and when we're
Yeah.
talking about the mind at large, we're talking about a mind that's beyond
Impersonal.
human, that fragments. And I think you've touched upon this subject on your course, your video, that the
Yeah.
mind at large fragments itself into
Yeah.
many perspectives, and
Hmm.
that's not what
That's not
solipsism says.
solipsism.
No,
Yeah.
because
Just
there's a
that you,
yeah.
personal.
Exactly. So it's not like it's a personal mind deceiving itself about everything. We're talking about one mind, the all mind, right? Which includes everything, which isn't deceiving itself. You know,
No.
we're starting, and this is the thing. What we're talking about is monistic idealism. We're not talking about solipsism. Solipsism is absolutely ridiculous. You know, as far as I can tell. And I don't think he believes it deep inside. Otherwise, he wouldn't go
Yeah.
to the
Why
effort.
is he talking to you? Why is he, like you said, why is he talking to another
Yeah,
mind if
it
other
doesn't
minds
make
don't exist?
exactly. It
Where's
doesn't
that?
make any sense. And I said to him,
Yeah.
"You're being dishonest, because if it's 0%, you wouldn't bother talking to me right now. If you'd said to me 50%, then you might entertain the notion that a plurality of minds exists apart from your own, and that's why you're talking to me right now. So you're going by the theory. This is the thing I was trying to bring up with him: the theory of mind that we all cultivate since we're infants. We observe other people, and then we make inferences. We observe our parents, and we think, okay, we can recognize some of our behaviors in them. They reprimand us, we get told off. They communicate with us. So we begin to form a solid theory that, a plurality of minds is the case, really.
Hmm. Let me just see here. This says the meeting is being recorded and there's an okay. Am I supposed to hit that? Does that matter?
I think you can just ignore it. Or is it
Just
getting in the
ignore
way
it?
of my face?
No, I don't think it's. I just saw it up there. I just didn't know if it's bothering with our recording. or
Yeah,
if
that's all
you know you
right.
think
We're
bad.
just having a
Okay.
relaxed conversation, really. I'll tell you
Yeah.
something, right? And you tell me if this is right. But I've been looking into Bradley's absolute idealism, and there are certain
Mhm.
things about his kind of idealism which seems to match Hermetic idealism, especially to do with the principles. There's one about polarity, and basically, Bradley was of the opinion that um, centers of awareness, like finite beings like you and me, when we
Mhm.
observe the world, we're making distinctions, and distinctions create appearance. And basically, in his idealism, he would say that distinctions which create appearances um, are not reality in the strictest sense, right? So he would say the absolute is the reality, and there is no separation. And the separation that you get from absolute idealism is like an illusion, and we create our own reality. So we basically carve out a finite appearance from the infinite, the absolute. And then it makes me think
Makes
of
sense.
the polarities. Two sides make up the same coin. And
Yeah.
yeah, so these distinctions, because he says relations between things, between terms, he calls them terms, right? Relations are wrongly illusions, because if you take them to be real, you end up with an infinite regress. It's what you call the Bradley regress. So
Hmm.
basically, if you have like say me and you, and say you want to say, oh, Stephen is taller than Arlindo or something like that, right? So you have a relation in between, right? But the thing is, he made the argument that the relation has to be a distinction in and of itself from the terms, and at the same time, it has to have a connection. And because there is a contradiction between connection and distinction, relations can only be illusory, and the real reality, his argument went something like that: the real reality is already unified, and it's our
Well,
perception
oh,
that distorts
non-local,
it.
right? I mean, non-local, right?
Non-local, yeah. Practically, in so
So
many
that's
words,
basically
that's
what
what
he's
he's
saying.
saying. Yeah,
Ahead of science catching up to this, right?
ahead of science catching up to
You
this.
know,
It's
because now that
crazy.
they've caught up to non-locality, they've caught up to that, right? I mean, that's the way I
Yeah,
see it.
yeah, absolutely. It's really crazy, and I
Kind
thought
of
straight
verified.
away Hermetic idealism, because you also have the principles of, what is it, polarity, vibration, and everything
And
vibrates.
starting with mind, yeah,
Yeah,
starting with mind, and then correspondence and vibration and polarity, yeah.
yeah, and correspondence. That's an interesting one, because within correspondence, right, in Hermetic idealism, you guys have
Like the
as
mirror,
above so below,
a
and
mirror,
a,
a
a mirror.
fractal, refract, it's like a mirror coming in, right? It's like
Yeah,
there's the one mind, and then there's this mirror, and this is opening up for what he was describing as
right.
illusory distinctions, so that self interaction can happen.
Yeah,
It's like there's even a telos here. The telos is that the one mind can. It would just be the loneliest thing in the world if it couldn't self interact.
yeah,
It can
that's right.
and does. It's doing it right now while we talk.
It
You
can
know?
and it does, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So I mean, sure, those are very. I would say that we're right together there. He's
yeah,
using some terminology and I'm using some terminology, but it's right together. The concept.
when you said about the mirror, it just made me think. So the way we see the absolute, let's say, we only see a partial representation. So that would be the universe,
Mhm.
and we can see that nature has a creative principle, right?
Yeah.
And then I think about our own minds. We also have a creative principle. You like to create your own music. You're very
Hmm.
creative. When we go to sleep, we dream, and dreams are very creative. And then we immerse
Oh yeah.
ourselves in that experience. So it's almost like we're
Mhm.
mirroring. what nature already does at large,
Hmm.
but we're doing it within ourselves. We already have that spark of divinity. We already have that creative principle, but we do it within ourselves, and then we wake up, and
Yeah.
we wake up to the wider reality.
Yeah. That's correspondence.
Yeah,
It's part of correspondence
yeah. I don't,
between but it's all perspective.
yeah,
It's the perspective of a unitary in perspective or fragmented in perspective. That's why I agree with him that it is more or less perceptual. I mean,
yeah.
because there aren't any distinctions outside of perceptual distinctions, right?
Right.
So he's correct. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's absolutely correct.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if we use modern ways of trying to analyze what he said, we would come to the same conclusion, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
with all of this modern ways of looking at it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I would say Bradley's particular brand of absolute idealism is very, as far as I've read, dovetails nicely with Hermetic idealism. You know,
Yeah.
the principle of
Well,
mentalism and everything else. And the thing is,
we
I
should
don't know
probably
what you
include
think
that then.
about. You know, when you look at the universe, right? Um, you get those galaxy filaments, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
On those
obviously,
images,
yeah, it's like a
those
giant brain.
connecting filaments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a giant brain that we live inside.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying, I don't know if you quite recently, I don't know if you've heard about the Viking one space probe, which is the farthest man-made object from us.
Out at the edge of the solar system.
Yeah, that's right. So it went
Yeah.
beyond the heliopause where, the solar wind stops and then you begin to get the influence from interstellar space. And he went
Yeah.
into it. And people used to say, whenever someone said, oh, maybe the universe is a bit like a giant brain. So imagine we're inside that brain and what we see is the extrinsic, I don't know, or intrinsic because we're inside it, but it would be the extrinsic appearance of a mind that large, let's say, so there would be like a holarchy, there would be like almost like a fractal, like we're fractals, right? And
Yes.
people used to say, oh, that's ridiculous. It only looks like a brain by coincidence. But then when I heard
There
that the
is no
Viking,
coincidence.
yeah, there's no coincidence. And when this probe left our solar system, entered interstellar space, because people
Yeah.
used to say, "Oh, there's no connection. Space is a vacuum," but there's a lot more going on in that vacuum. And
Oh, yeah.
the probe actually found that it's electrically denser than anyone could ever imagine. When you step outside the solar system and you go into
Hmm.
interstellar space, there's a lot
It's even
of
more dense.
electricity going on, a lot of connection, and it makes me think, well, it's beginning to sound more plausible that we live within an even larger mind, and perhaps that larger mind
Yeah.
lives within another larger mind, and this,
Well, that's correspondence too. I think
yeah,
what they're teaching in correspondence is that. I think ultimately, as within, so
so
without
without,
turns into what you're saying. I really think that's the message of the Kyballion, is that
yeah,
life is that we are housing life on downwardly per se,
yeah,
and that externally life goes on. It's in us and it's outside of us, and it's just so you're gonna like this. I was talking to another guy, Craig Leo Raw. He's got a platform. He's in some of our groups. We were talking in a chat, and we were talking about the issue of John, John 10:30, and then Psalm 82 and the Elohim. What you're talking about is how he interprets Elohim, and I had never heard anybody say that. When he said that, I thought, aha, because I already knew it from Hermetics. Like I understood
right,
that life, like so. What the way he interprets the Elohim and Anunnaki, because we know that they're the same.
yeah,
What
yeah,
they're humanoid in our image, in our likeness. So the image of metaconscious life, let's say,
right,
is the image of alien, what we would consider alien, and maybe even angel and human.
yeah,
So to him, that is what it means about the Elohim, and he believes that there's life inside of us, and we're inside of life, and it reverberates out perpetually. And we, that's why in the Bible it says we are the Elohim. In other words, we are the image of metaconscious mental experience. And I
Right.
thought that is genius. I hadn't heard anybody take it there before. And when he
Yeah.
took it there, I was like, I understood. I was like, yeah. So I'm going to credit him for having said that.
Yeah. Now that you've mentioned it, I did
And now
hear.
it's on my radar.
Right. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
Nini Castle, she mentioned about the Elohim. I think it's also in Kabbalah and Kabbalistic mysticism or something like that. She mentioned
Mm-hmm.
the Elohim, and I think it within that you also get the word. It's something like that, and there's the breath and how it all begins. And I think
Mm-hmm.
from where it all begins, you can't speak of it because no words, no concepts can describe it. It's prior to concepts or something like that, But
And
we
from the
all have that.
outset of Genesis,
I
you mean the
think
beginning in Genesis?
the begin. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. The beginning of Genesis.
It's not. It's not. It's not a beginning per se.
Right.
It's just sort of poetic. There can't be a beginning in eternity. You
Right. Yeah.
know,
I think it's
within the eternal, what's the beginning? You
yeah,
know.
yeah. That's right. I think
Uh,
it's something along these lines. She leaves out the A, but they start with the B or something like that because the B is all that you can speak of, and that
mhm.
makes me think of
Ah, yeah,
I tell you
imminent
what.
or transcendent.
I
That
tell you
there's
what.
there's something transcendent, unspoken, and they're just dealing with the eminent, which can be spoken, right? That's.
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
Cynthia
Yeah,
and I have had this talk. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I've
they
got a
concerned with what can be spoken,
yeah. I've got a
understanding
Rupert
that there's
Spira.
more that can't.
Yeah,
Understanding there's more, but okay, we're going to settle for what can be spoken of.
yeah. Because we've had our experiences, and there's people always report experiencing samadhi and rigpa states where you acquire knowledge of the ground, and even Bradley spoke of direct experience. Like when you have direct experience, that's even prior to relational experience. And he said
Mm-hmm.
relational experience is where thoughts take place because thoughts can have
Yeah.
relations, and that's possible in
Mm-hmm.
mind, right? Um,
Yeah.
but the absolute prior to experience, which is
I'm going to turn
pre-reflective,
this around.
right? So you get like
Yeah.
the experience which is pre-reflective, which is direct, is prior to concepts, and this experience can't be described. It can only be felt, right? And there is a quote that I've got here actually from Rupert's book, Being Myself, right? And it's from a chapter 3 called I Am. And he says, all feelings, states, conditions, activities, or relationships are added to me and then removed from me. They are not part of what I essentially am. They are not part of my essential being. Our essential self or being shines in each of us as the sense of being myself, the feeling of being, or the pure knowledge of I am. This knowledge is described as pure because before becoming qualified by the content of experience, it is devoid of any objective quality. It is transparent, empty, silent, and at peace. That's a quote by Rupert Spira, and it speaks
Mm-hmm.
to something empty but at peace, and it shines, and it's aware. It's pure awareness, basically. And I think that's what people experience when they reach states like samadhi or henosis. But yeah, you've got it right there. I am, and that's
Well, it's a
exactly the
little
name of the
backwards, but
chapter where it's from.
the
The chapter, yeah,
I was just trying to illustrate what we were talking about. Now, let's imagine that every circle is a universe, and within that comes the Elohim, which is the humanoid form, right?
right,
Like I've got a little stick figure. Elohim, Elohim. You see this repeat, and it would get it according to perceptions, it could infinitely regress, and it could have exponential growth, outward. That there's this recurring situation where there has to be metaconscious life in every experiential level. This could go on forever, as within, so without.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I'm just trying to illustrate what we were saying there. It's like that could be us in a universe. Like, let's say that this is us in the universe right here. Well, inside of us would be that and that and that, and outside of us, like you were talking about, would be further. Like if we were here, outside of us would be this, and we would, and the inside of those minds, it looks like a mind because we're inside of a mind, and there's things inside of our mind.
That's right. That's right.
That's a way of trying to illustrate it.
Yeah.
I was just doing dry erase board lessons just earlier, so I was like, all right, trying to think of ways to illustrate concepts.
Yeah.
As part of
I mean, that's all we can do. We can only try to illustrate these ideas, these concepts in our heads, and actually, that's something that Bradley.
That's correspondence.
Because Bradley said there are three ways, three modes of experience, I think, to get to the absolute, to try and acquire the perspective of the absolute. And you get direct experience, right? But he never really gave like a recipe for how to attain these states. But he said you can get it, you can acquire it through direct experience, or you can try and form a conception of it. You can try to form a conception of it through relational experience, which is thoughts. And then he said something along the lines of, and then there's also supra experience. I have it written down. It's where thoughts try to think outside the box. Try to think. It's when a mind tries to think outside its own limitations, outside the limits of thought. So he described it as supra relational. That's it. So
relation. Okay.
Yeah, supra relational, and it's where thought tries to reach the absolute. But the only way it can really apprehend the absolute, you can't go through thoughts. It has to be direct experience. So if you want to have different ways of understanding it, yeah. It's like a trade-off. If you really want to know, it's direct experience. Bang. But if you want to understand or have something that will satisfy the intellect, you will come up with a model, and then you will say, okay, that kind of points to what was experienced, but it's not quite the original state. But it will be a model that sort of points towards it. And I think Kastrup made a point about this with his analytic idealism. He was humble enough to say, by no means is this the ultimate truth, but it's less wrong than materialism, and it points to something, because he did say, and he's not really much for meditation, is he? But he did say these models point to something.
But he has direct experience. He does have direct experience.
Right, he does have some direct experience. I mean,
I don't think he's into meditation, but he has done psychedelics, and I know for sure through psychedelics.
That's right. And he does. And thinking about it, he does talk about his experience with Jung's stone, isn't it? Like the pyramid that he encountered. Yeah, and then he got. It's almost like he was already thinking of Jung or his philosophy and ideas, and all of a sudden he realized he was treading on that stone. I don't know if I remember it correctly, and it has to be the stone that Jung used to possess, like a sort of like a pyramid. So he does have those experiences, but he's not he's not an expert meditator, really, is he? I mean,
no. But he's taken the psilocybin to the, he's taken heroic psilocybin and gone to the void, and then claims that he went deeper in than the void, and had a direct experience of that fractal reality that manifests the void. deeper than the void. That's quite a direct experience. But
Yeah,
he qualifies it and he says it's not as I'm sound. You know, even then he knows enough to say that his words are a guide,
yeah,
calling it a fractal energetic reality below the void. But it's
yeah,
not that. He can't say what it is. Those
yeah,
are just words. You know, so
yeah.
I mean, he knows enough to. I mean, yeah, he's not like a mystic to but he seems to really be attracted to and like Rupert Spira.
Yeah, he's open.
You
He's
know,
definitely open
he
to
holds
these
him in high regard,
experiences. Yeah,
and then says, "Hey, he's not a big mystic or anything. He's a philosopher, but he kind of gets it, and he has some psychedelic experience. So, I mean, I think he's cool with it, all in all. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Of course, yeah,
he's just not a
yeah,
practitioner. He's not a yogi. You
yeah.
know, he's not a guru. You know,
And actually, a lot of these scientists and philosophers, they've had a taste of that kind of experience because you get Donald Hoffman, who's had an experience of the one, and he practices
oh yeah,
meditation. And then you also have Federico
yeah. He says he
Faggin,
does.
who also had his own experience of mind expansion and interconnectivity. And, he said it was all made of love, which sounds a lot like what NDEers say. And then he came back
Yeah,
and he had that massive paradigm shift where, it's almost like something was telling him how you've gone about this, through materialism. It doesn't work. It, it's all
yeah,
consciousness. Yeah. And I know he calls it, quantum panpsychism, which is really a form of idealism. It's not constitutive panpsychism, is
yeah.
it? It's more of a
No,
kind of like a holistic. It's all experience, and it can't be replicated. If it's private to yourself, it can't be replicated. And then there's only so much you can know from looking at quantum states or subatomic particles. I think he calls it the Holevo's theorem, where there's only so much that you can know about a system. In order to really know, you have to be the system and experience it. And then
yeah,
he came up with the term quantum panpsychism, which is really a form of idealism, really, if you ask me.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I count Hoffman as a type of idealist. I count that as scientific idealism, is the way
yeah,
I've been labeling it,
yeah,
because it's mathematically precise, and I see it as idealist because the whole or the one in his model, it's non-dual.
yeah,
It's conscious. It's consciousness, and then the conscious agents are manifestations of that. So to
yeah,
me, that's idealism. It's
yeah.
not panpsychism.
It's
And
definitely
it's
idealism.
scientific because it's mathematically precise. So hopefully I'm correct. I hope I'm not, mislabeling, but I've been calling it scientific idealism, in
Yeah,
Bernardo's philosophical idealism, in
yeah.
my Hermetic idealism, mystical idealism.
Right, right. I
This is
see.
how I've been looking at it. Now, you know, I haven't had any sort of like reason to see that as false or anything, yet. So I've
Yeah.
been going with that. So hopefully I've labeled these things right. You know,
No, no. It's fair
I
enough.
don't think he is panpsychism. I think he's scientific idealism,
It's
if I were to call it
idealism.
something.
Yeah. In fact,
Mathematical idealism.
yeah, he used to call. I don't know if he
Oh,
still does call it that, but Donald Hoffman used to call it conscious realism, which
Gretchen.
is similar to experiential realism. And his conscious realism brings back the realism into it, and it begins from conscious agents, and then everything else
Mhm.
can be derived from it. It's amazing.
Oh
And one
no.
of the things I like about him is the fact that he pointed out what was happening in places like CERN, where every time they assumed space and time was
Yeah.
fundamental, they
Oops, sorry.
couldn't work out the trajectories of the particles every time they collided the hadrons. They ended up
Somebody's
with
here.
so many equations. But when someone said, "Oh, why don't we assume that space and time are also just features of reality, and something more fundamental is going on?" That's when all those equations became just all those myriad equations, which was so confusing, turned into a simple equation, to describe a single trajectory. You didn't need to have that many algebraic equations. It was all reduced to one. It was simplified. And that's when they began to say, well, maybe consciousness is fundamental, and even space and time
Ah,
are derived from it, and it all made perfect sense. I think it would be great if we managed to get Donald Hoffman for an interview.
well,
I know Matt
yeah, I
Joy
mean, I'm game for it.
is
I
managed it.
haven't talked to any of those guys yet, and I've been meaning to. So if it can happen, I count me in.
Yeah,
Sure, Donald Hoffman. I'd love to talk direct to Hoffman. Now with Kastrup, they've got a different platform set up now with Amir. So I mean, but maybe we could talk to Amir and get with Bernardo Kastrup as well.
yeah,
Through their new platform situation.
maybe at some point in the future. But I really do believe
Yeah,
that at the moment, I think we've got more chances with Donald Hoffman. Um,
with Donald Hoffman. Yeah,
yeah, and he would be brilliant because now, right, a lot of people interviewed him, you know, going back maybe a year, a couple of years ago, and he kept saying that there's more to be discovered, but he kept talking about the amplituhedron, kept talking about you start
yeah.
with conscious agents, and then you get the Markov blankets, you get the decorated permutations, Markov blankets, and blah blah blah, blah, and it all maps onto the um, the features of the quantum field, like spin, mass, momentum. It all matches, right? You had that model, but he said there's a lot more to be discovered apart from the
Oh, I'm
amplituhedron.
sure. Yeah.
Even though the amplituhedron already contains trillions of dimensions, which make our universe look like just a tiny derivative of something much larger, right? It's like a larger reality,
Yeah.
infinite possibilities. But he said there will be more to be discovered. So if we interviewed him around now, he'd probably be able to talk about things like the associahedron. I think that's a new one that they fairly recent.
What is the name of it?
It's called the associahedron.
Oh,
So,
that one I haven't gotten into yet.
so it's to do with
Now,
associations.
now the decorated. So the amplitude. Well, I guess for the audience sake, the amplituhedron is deeper in than Planck length,
That's right. Yeah.
and it's deeper in than to explain to people what we're on about here. Uh, there's quantum mechanics and all this quantum weirdness, and then the amplituhedron is actually a step deeper in yet.
Yeah.
Out that's in Planck scale. This
That's
is
right.
out. This is what is. So to me, this is like the interface, like he's saying. The quantum is part of the interface, and what's informing the interface is amplituhedron. It gives geometry.
Yeah.
To try to say it simple, it gives geometry into the interface that we're experiencing right now. That
That's right.
comes
Yeah.
from quantum to classical, and then deep. There's still something that gives geometry to the amplituhedron, which is the decorated permutations that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Now, do those also give geometry to the new geometric shape that you just said, or are they deeper than decorated permutations, informing it,
It,
or
it,
does it inform both the amplituhedron and another?
it's basically it's so when you get the amplituhedron, it does inform the dynamics of our space-time reality to an extent, based on what we already know from the standard model. And
Yeah,
certain features of reality, like spin, mass, momentum, it all maps onto the amplituhedron. But the amplituhedron suggests that there is a lot more that we don't perceive, and it suggests
yeah,
like other worlds, possibly other realities, and you would need different headsets to experience
yeah,
those other possibilities, right? When it comes to the
yeah.
associahedron, from what I've read so far, but I would love Donald Hoffman to join us at some point and
To
explain a
tell
lot
us,
more,
yeah,
right? Because he's obviously in touch with these people like Arkani Ahmed, I think that's his name, and then there's a Brazilian woman that
yeah,
works with Arkani Ahmed, and basically what they're doing is it's a technique that they call surfaceology. So this technique allows them to see past the Planck scale and to derive all these geometric shapes that have to exist beyond the Planck scale, right?
mhm,
And it will inform us on reality, on more reality that we can't see. So the associahedron would be um, could potentially, right, if it hasn't done so already, could potentially unify all those fields. Remember when Bernardo Kastrup, because he also
wow,
worked at CERN, he was talking
yeah,
about work that could be done to unify the 14 fields. I think that they've identified 14 fields, 14 separate fields, which are not separate; they interrelate. But they were looking for a kind of theory that would turn those fields into one unified field, right? And the thing is, you know how in science they get the inkling that there is a unified field. They just need the proof. They just need concrete evidence, right? But it's pointing in
Yeah.
that direction. The associahedron apparently has the potential to unify all fields. And
Okay.
if we get Donald Hoffman in to explain a bit more, it would be great because it would lend credit to what Kastrup has been saying about the
Yeah.
not necessarily all the details of analytic idealism, but it would point to a monistic reality where there is just one essence, and that essence has to be mind, because after all,
Mind,
consciousness
consciousness.
is
Yeah.
irreducible and
Experience.
it's experiential. And
It's
with the
experiential.
associahedron, it has the potential to associate in that sense. And these people,
Yeah. Well, Kaufman has got conscious agents behind the decorated permutations, and then
that's
he's
right.
got consciousness itself behind that. So no matter about all these different hedrons and everything else,
Yeah,
there could be a lot, but they're
yeah.
all going to be informed by primary consciousness, just to kind of
They're all going to be
make
informed by
this
primary
simple for
consciousness.
people watching.
There's no way around it. And in fact, even
Yeah.
the physicists, the renowned physicists that we know about, like Max Planck and others, they were already saying that you can't get behind consciousness. And
Yeah.
and one of them, I can't remember which one, said the more you study the universe and quantum mechanics, the more you realize that it's all like a giant thought in nature. So
Yeah.
it's practically saying it's all mind. Materialism no longer makes sense. And
Oh,
Castro
yeah.
talks about ripples, and it's all to do with ripples, and you can't think of atoms as like billiard balls. That no longer works because I don't know if a few years ago, which I found it really strange, right? Uh,
Fields.
Castro, I don't know if Kastrup was working at CERN at the time, um, but they were puzzled by every time they smashed these particles, right? So they had a measurement for one particular particle and then a different measurement for another particle. And when they smashed them together, they noticed something peculiar, which was it was almost like the result was way more than the initial two particles. And someone said it's like we've smashed two Ferraris together and we ended up with a Titanic. So it didn't make sense until someone found out, oh, actually, we can't just take the particles, which can also be waves, the tiny ripples. We can't just put them together to get that result. We have to take into account how fast they were traveling, the distance from which they began. You have to take all those elements into account. And when you add up, when you do the math, it all adds up to the Titanic, to this massive
Wow.
thing. And that's when they realized
Oh,
we can't regard subatomic particles as though they're just billiard balls. That doesn't work. You have to think of them as ripples in this field, and when the ripples travel, you have to take all the forces into consideration, and voila, you get that magical result. It looks like magic if you think they're just tiny little billiard balls, but if you think of them as ripples in space,
yeah.
it makes sense.
Entangled and interconnected and part of the whole and everything
Interconnected,
else.
part of the whole
Well,
entangled.
fields, though, you're still thinking of it as a field here in this
That's
example,
right.
right?
I mean,
Like fields contained within a unified field as
that's right.
ripples,
Yeah,
right?
and I think the reason for it is because we still, as human beings, we can't help but use the the construct of space-time in order to try and comprehend these things. So because our minds stretch everything mental that we perceive, we stretch it out into this space, this massive space. But space is not
Yeah.
fundamental; it's derived from
No.
consciousness. So
Yeah.
it's almost like, in a way, Kastrup I know some people have their reservations about, when Hoffman said, "Oh, there's 0% chance that you perceive reality exactly as it is." Some people would say there is some chance, but it's not exactly um, what it's like. When it comes to mind, I think you can create different representations which convey the meaning, the intention behind the mind at large. I mean, I'm really
Yeah.
trying to describe. It's almost like you can get different symbols for exactly the same thing, different languages for exactly the same thing. And the thing is, at the moment, because we're human beings, we have to use the language of space time in order to try and
Yeah.
understand these things. So we tend to speak of fields. But I think Kastrup said, even when I say field, it's only an
It's
abstraction to
not
try and,
literal.
yeah, it's almost like using numbers as well. Numbers are only abstractions for what we're trying to,
Yeah.
you know,
If it's a
consider.
holistic reality, the numbers are just perceptions and concepts in a holistic reality, right? That's
Yeah,
the way I look at maths and numbers. Yeah, they have their purpose and all that, but their contents,
yeah,
consciousness. When you were saying that people are naive to think that they're going to discover the secret of consciousness in maths and numbers, well, those maths and numbers are the contents of consciousness. That's putting the cart before the horse. They'll
yeah.
never do that. They won't be able to do it that way.
That's
And
right.
I guess that's what everybody's realizing now, you know,
Yeah,
that they can't do it putting the cart before the horse.
yeah.
The contents don't equal the consciousness.
No.
The contents are housed within the conscious experience, and then therefore experiential realism.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, they get so lost in numbers that they forget the experience, and then they, like you said,
Yeah,
it's they take the map for the mistake the map for the territory, and it's exactly what
yeah,
Max Tegmark. As you were speaking, I was thinking of Max Tegmark because as a materialist, when I read his book, Our Mathematical Universe,
uh-huh. I didn't read that one, but
right, it's a brilliant book, right? Don't get me wrong, it's a brilliant book. He looks into the maths and he recognizes the infinities and sets of infinities and the relationships and Pythagorean theorem and all these other discoveries, right, within maths. And it's like, oh my God, nobody invented that. It's almost like we're discovering it. And then he says, from mathematics, you can derive an infinite number of universes, right? That's his conclusion,
yeah,
and he came up with different types of universes. You get the quantum mechanical one that goes straight through us, and then you get the ones that you have to travel far enough, and then you start to get replicas of Earth and the whole galaxy, and then you might as well consider them as also another type of universe beyond.
yes.
And after
Infinite
all of this,
replication paradox.
yeah,
Are you talking about infinite replication paradox?
yes,
That
infinite replication.
given there'll be another Earth, it'll
Yeah, yeah.
repeat.
So basically,
Okay.
his reasoning is right. This universe. So forget the universes from in uh, in different states of vibration. Forget the universes that go straight through us. Right. Let's just take
Yeah.
our universe, and he says within this universe, because there's a set of laws, those laws dictate to the matter in this universe that there's only a finite number of ways in which matter can arrange itself. And if that's true, and then
Yeah.
we have an infinite universe, there's bound to be repetitions, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so because there's only a finite number of ways, you
Uh-huh.
travel far enough, you're going to
So
find a
it will
replica of
repeat.
the Earth and the whole history,
Yeah.
the entire history,
Yeah.
Hitler, World War II, and whatnot, right? You're going to
A
find
complete replica.
a
Yeah.
complete
An
replica,
exact. That's the
right?
way I've understood it. Yeah. An
And
exact replica.
so, to a human mind, some people can derive great meaning from that and straight away arrive at the conclusion that no, there's an intelligence behind it. And other people might just say, oh, because there's only an infinite number of ways in which matter can arrange itself, even though the coincidence is that big, it's bound to happen. That's what like a materialist mind would say, basically.
Yeah.
but we haven't got we can't confirm this because it's beyond us. We'd have to travel
Yeah.
Google plexes away from Earth in order to
To
confirm this.
see the repetition is too far to reach.
It's
That's
too
what I've
far
heard.
to reach,
Yeah.
right? But after all his thinking, all his ideas, he reaches the end of the book, and then he realizes, oh, I left something out. I don't know how consciousness fits into all of this, but he was so close because he actually before he arrives at that conclusion, he says, like Einstein, I wonder what breathes fire into the equations. Uh, right. So he's saying maths is fundamental, and then suddenly he goes, "What breathes fire into the equations?" And then at the end of the book, he goes, "Oh, I left consciousness out. I don't know how it plays into. It's still a mystery. That's going to be my next project." So, so you see what's happening. It's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like he's done all the maths, but he left the essential part out.
Yeah. The witness to the maths,
The
the
witness to the maths.
observer, the
Yeah,
ultimate observer of the maths.
yeah,
That's what's been left out. Sure.
yeah.
But hopefully maybe he'll come around to understand. Like who was
I
that?
hope so.
Some of these other physicists after 20 or 30 years have come around to realizing it, and they say it now. They say I was
Yeah.
out of my mind to have overlooked the primacy of consciousness. It was under my nose the whole time. Who just said that? Federico, somebody just put out a talk about that. Faggin or somebody. He said that it took him 20 or 30 years to
Oh,
realize that he
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
losing
Federico
the
Virginia.
and then now he's got it, and he's
He's
got it
got
now,
it.
and he's
Yeah,
vocal about it now. He's
yeah. No,
preaching
that's
it.
right. It was Federico
Yeah.
because he was still
Federico
thinking
says
under.
this.
Yeah, he was still thinking under the materialist paradigm, and then finally he saw that it didn't work. That you
Yeah.
need that
He,
reality itself has to be consciousness has to come first. It's
yeah.
irreducible. Otherwise, you will never
And I
get
think he
conscious
said,
agents.
yeah, I think he actually said it in that term. I think he said he had been putting the cart before the horse, and he realizes that he needs to put the horse ahead of the cart. I think
Yeah,
that's the way he describes it.
something like that.
So
Yeah, no,
maybe
definitely.
this will be the same, when this guy goes for the second book.
I think so. I think
Maybe
so.
it'll coax them into realizing that.
He'll be
He'll
another
be
Federico
focused on it,
Virginia. He'll realize it's like the penny will drop eventually, and he'll think, "Oh my
Yeah.
God!" Unless, right, unless he's already there, but he's not brave enough like
Yeah.
Federico Virginia because he's
Not
worried
brave
about
enough to
tenure.
say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Because
other
he
people are
finds some
saying it. So maybe he'll get brave.
maybe, yeah, and he'll come out of the closet.
Yeah. Yeah. Out of the metaphysical closet.
Closet. Yeah, no, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember um, when Kastrup was talking about the founding documents of the Enlightenment, right? And one of the authors is Diderot, right? Denis Diderot. And at the time, it's actually in the Encyclopedia of Sciences, Arts, and Crafts, and I forget the name, but basically Diderot was saying he actually makes an admission. He says, "Oh, materialism doesn't work, but we need to use it as a weapon against the church, right?" And then
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
I
he
remember that quote.
that's right, yeah. So and then he goes, um, once the danger has been averted because they were killing the scientists at the time. They were really oppressive, the church, right?
Yeah. As
Once
heretics.
that's
Yeah.
out of the way, he goes, we can think of a better metaphysics to explain reality, right? But what most people don't know is that Diderot was, I reckon, right? I could be overstepping the mark, right? But I reckon he was already an idealist in the closet. Do you know why?
That's a good guess. Yeah. I would guess that too. If he
Because
admitted that much, then that's a good guess.
yeah, because he was reading books about the metaphysics of Leibniz, the monads,
Yeah.
and he was also looking at Paracelsus, which was the father of toxicology. He was an alchemist, and Paracelsus was very much into Hermeticism, Pythagoreanism, and Neoplatonism.
Yeah.
So
And
Paracelsus,
so the primacy of mind.
the
Yeah.
primacy of mind. So when
Yeah.
I reckon when Diderot, who was friends with Voltaire, I think all of them, even Voltaire included, when they were saying,
Yeah.
let's propagate this materialist lie, and then later we can come up with a better metaphysics for it. And they never did because, they died and it carried on. In the end, people believed in materialism. But I reckon
Yeah.
Diderot, at least Diderot, and even Voltaire, because they were friends, I reckon they were looking into idealist metaphysics. Because you find writings from Diderot actually admiring uh, Paracelsus, his work to
Yeah.
do with alchemy, but also his ideas, and also admiring Leibniz. And that makes me think maybe this guy was already an idealist, but because they were so
Yeah.
frightened of the church, they wanted to undermine it, and they just decided, look, let's just say there is no mind, there is no spirit, it's just numbers, and somehow it's an illusion. Let's just undermine the church completely. And plus, with materialism, you get a kind of freedom. We can sell it to people because with materialism, they no longer need to worry about the afterlife. There's no hell,
Yeah.
freedom. That's
Yeah.
it.
It's just a void,
Yeah,
oblivion.
it's just a void of living, no experience. But the thing is, you are experience. You can't escape it. You are consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, whether you like it, and
And
this
then
thing
that
of
brings back, yeah. So then that's why Kastrup has anxiety now,
that's right.
you know, because it's an unknown. He
He,
realizes that it's impossible
yeah,
for to die and have it be the way that physicalists and materialists think is impossible. It's
yeah.
untenable. And so then it's a big mystery. And what is he has anxiety? Me, I don't have anxiety, and I'm sure you don't, because
I
we've
don't.
been into altered states. I've near drowned and gone to the void and come back. When I was in other states, it wasn't scary. It wasn't bad. It wasn't evil. It wasn't something to be afraid of. So I'm not afraid.
That's
You
right.
know,
Yeah.
I've had ego dissolution. It's only scary when it feels like you're having ego death. Beyond that, it's not scary. That's what I've
No,
experienced.
it's almost like you're in touch with nature, with the oneness.
Yeah, it's not
You
scary at
realize,
all. It's grand.
yeah. And this is
So
why
I'm not
Rupert
afraid
Spira,
about it.
yeah, yeah.
I've gotten a taste of it. I feel like, even if brief.
It's
I don't have a long-winded experience outside of finite mind, but I have had a taste of it.
yeah,
That ego dissolution, I felt like I wasn't a person anymore.
yeah,
I was conscious of something, but it wasn't of thoughts. I can't go back and tell you what I was thinking because I think I was completely outside of that.
yeah. And it's
I
liberating in
couldn't,
a way.
and it was kind of like light, but I don't know, in a way, even that's a metaphor, you know, when we say that it's like light, uh, I just because we don't know what else to say. What
Yeah,
else can we say? It's energy. It's something. It
yeah.
isn't nothing.
It's something.
There's an experience there to be
Yeah.
had outside of finite mind and outside of ego.
You know what? I echo what you're saying
And I'll
because
come
I also
back.
struggled. Like when I had my experience, where there were no thoughts, no thinking, but there was a
Yeah.
clarity. It's like a luminous mind, but it's not light, but at the same time, it's a clarity and a freedom and a stillness, and it's blissful. And
Yeah.
I can't describe it. No words can capture it. It has to be
It's
experienced
like ultra
directly.
real.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like you know, when I had that experience, I was young in my 20s, and I had this feeling like, well, no, I'm not ready to die yet. And I retracted from the experience because I felt like the experience was death. And I was like, no, there's things I want to do. I want to grow, I want to have a family. I want to do this. I want, for whatever reason, I retracted from it when I had that ego death and that kind of opening, that melting of personal
yeah,
experience. It was an experience of something impersonal or suprapersonal, maybe, you
yeah,
know, instead of personal. Like right now, it's personal.
yeah,
It seems personal. It seems like I'm inside of this skin.
yeah.
It seemed outside of that when I had the ego death thing.
Right.
To
It
be
went
honest, I think I
beyond.
had a natural DMT release because I don't know how it was so wild like it was, me not having taken a substance. And then years later, I realized that we have DMT. I probably had a third eye awakening or something, and I probably had some natural internal DMT release that gave me this experience, I bet,
Yeah.
you know? Because
So
I
it.
did not take substance. I don't have an explanation for why I had this. I
Yeah.
just got locked into a frame of mind. And here's what it was. I was studying the Big Bang Theory very deeply, and I was studying the cone of the Big Bang, and I was just accepting that everything way out here where we are in that cone of the Big Bang was once this singularity, but that's not the end. The singularity is a pre-existent in the model. It already exists. So there's something eternal. That's when I had been a physicalist, and then I realized that according to our physical model, something is eternal. It isn't the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning of the cone isn't the beginning. Well, I really accepted that internally. And I guess I was like, in a way, I was accepting that I am the totality, not the part in my mind, intellectually. And then when I went to go to bed, that happened. When that
Wow.
state between waking consciousness and dream consciousness, it's possible that I provoked a third eye awakening and that accompanied with DMT because I did not take any psychedelics. I didn't do a meditation. I just intellectualized all of that and honestly identified with the totality. I realized that no, I am just existence itself. I'm not something that exists inside of existence that's separate from existence. I am existence.
Yeah.
That's what triggered it. And next thing
Yeah.
you know, I was into an ego dissolution episode. I felt like I was becoming the whole. And I think it was because I accepted it intellectually. And then maybe that allowed my right hemisphere, the holistic mind, to then take me on this journey or something. I don't know. But it
Yeah.
did. And I rejected it because I didn't want to die. I felt like I was going to die and go away. And I was like, no, no, I haven't lived yet. I need to live a life. I need to do what I'm supposed to do here.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it. And then when I knee jerked out of it, I resisted. I came out of, instead of drifting away into the hole, I chose back.
Yeah.
And when I chose back, I woke up in such a panic I can't describe. I was absolutely panicked, sweating. I thought that I had just averted death,
Wow.
you know? But the thing is, at my age now, I might handle it different. But as a 20 something, I might have been like, 26, 27 when that
Yeah.
happened. I wanted to live. I had plans, I had
Yeah.
goals. So I pulled myself out
You would have
for
been
that
too
reason. And
soon.
that's probably meant to be. I wasn't meant to go then, so
Yeah.
I'm back in the interface. And the way we're talking, I understand it now. When I see a corpse on the side of the road or a roadkill or something, I'm looking at it as the remnants of it within the interface where the consciousness has gone back out of the interface, and what remains are just the interface properties. That's when I see a roadkill or a dead body or attend
Yeah.
a funeral of a human being. That's the way I see it today.
Yeah.
And it's helped me overcome things like fear of death and not
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah.
I'm getting
Because
emotional about it.
no, I understand, man. I completely see where you're coming from, and I've
And
had
we've
some
had a lot of close
experiences.
people die, you and I. And I mean, I have this perspective of it now to where it's okay.
Yeah.
This is an interface. That's a good way of thinking of it to me.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Emotional.
And people think, well, if the spirit, if the consciousness is gone, why is the body still there? If it's supposed to be an extrinsic appearance
Well,
of the
it's the
mind.
interface.
But then again, I think of Kastrup, what he said. I really admire because he said something like, "When you see a corpse, it's an echo of something that's taken place, of a doing in nature, and once that doing is left,
Uh,
it creates an echo, and then it dissipates, it goes away, which speaks to decay,
the decomposition.
the
Yeah.
decomposition. Yeah, it decomposes. It's been left there like a footprint. The walking is different. The walking it has gone. The spirit has moved on to other perceptions, other things. whatever the afterlife brings, right? But they've left behind the remnants of a doing. The body is decomposing now. It's doing its own thing. There's other organisms there interacting, doing their own things, which helped to create your organism, to maintain your organism, the homeostasis or whatever. But now that you've moved on, that can decay. That's an echo of
Yeah,
what you were doing. And
that's
and
the way
and
I
I
look
can
at it.
understand why you're getting emotional because, at the time it must have been frightening because I can imagine me as a young man having that type of experience and thinking that it's too soon. I don't want
I
to.
was unprepared.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was not a mystic. I was a materialist and an atheist
even worse.
when that happened. And when I came out of it, I went and looked up pantheism and I
Yeah,
joined the World Pantheism movement,
right.
WPM. I became a pantheist that week.
Wow.
When I came out of it, I understood that pantheism is what's real,
Yeah,
that reality is holistic. And the only thing that at the time, the only thing that I understood that could deal with that was pantheism, not monotheism, not atheism, not these other things, that it was pantheism. And then
pantheism.
later on, after it developed, then I understood panentheism,
Yeah,
you know, later.
yeah,
First, it was pantheism. I understand that it's all just holistic.
yeah,
And then understanding that it's holistic mind came later, you know,
yeah,
and that's when I decided that I was a natural panentheist. But this happened early 2000s, and I wasn't a natural panentheist until sometime after 2010.
yeah,
So for about 10 years, I felt like a pantheist, and I did it. People used to mark panentheists as supernaturalists, and I didn't think I was that because I just thought it was all natural, you know?
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
well, no, it's not, whatever it is, it's natural. It's not supernatural. It's
yeah,
just the natural. I still think that. That's why. But then later, some other people told me, no, 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 we're not that. We're natural panentheists. And I was like, oh, okay. And they explained it to me, an
yeah,
online community of natural panentheists. And all they were was people who they were really were people who were either Vedic or Hermetic.
yeah,
And then when I finally read the Kyballion and it says the all is all, well, that covers pantheism. And then
yeah,
it says the all is in all, panentheism, in the Hermetic Kyballion. So then when I saw that, I didn't read that until years of being a pantheist and then a panentheist. So I identified that. And I was like, oh, okay. So the Kyballion is representing that it is both pantheism and panentheism all together
yeah,
by saying the all is all and the all is in all. They were representing pantheism and panentheism together, not one or the other. They were trying to say that both are true in some way. That's the way I read that from
right.
perspectives. You know, the all is all from one perspective, and the all is in all. It's not pick one or the other. Previous people acted as if it was a pick one or the other, and if you're this, you're not that, in false dichotomies. And then I realized, no, no, just like all dichotomies, this is also false. You know, it's both according to perspective.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
was me going into like 2010, 2012 time frame
Yeah,
of my growth, you know?
yeah. No, panentheism seems to be evidenced by reports from NDEers because several people say uh, it's almost like everything was made of love and it was inside me and it was everyone and all around me. I've heard that being said so many times. And some people even describe it as a deity beyond comprehension, which is inside all of us. It's in us, it's us, and then all around us, and everywhere and everything. And someone even said the word God, as most people understand it on Earth, can't quite capture the deity. There's so many NDEs that have that experience of oneness, and it speaks to monism. It speaks to non-duality. If it's all the same thing, people who have
Yeah.
experienced what others experience, it's almost like they acquire telepathic powers and they can read other people's thoughts and experience their emotions. It's incredible. And there's even And this, right, this touches upon morality, ethics, what we think is justice, and um, there is a particular NDE that I read in Bruce Grayson's book After, and there was this guy, this truck driver, and he stopped at a gas station, and some other guy was around and came towards him. This guy was pissed off for some reason, and the trucker was, in his vehicle, and he had his window open, and this guy just comes round and punches him through the window, right? Punches the truck driver through the window, and so he went mad. Obviously, he got out of the truck, went after this guy, and jumped on him and started pummeling him on the ground, right? And then he jumped inside his truck and left the petrol station, and other people came out, and they went to check if this guy, even though he's the one who started it, they went and checked if this guy was
Yeah.
okay, right? And they called the police and everything, right? And the truck driver moved on, right? Years passed, and then he was fixing his car, right? The truck driver was fixing a car that he had in his garage. So he went under the car, and the car fell on top of him, so crushed his ribs, right? So he ended up having an NDE, right? So he has this NDE,
Wow.
and he experiences like a life review, and he reviewed it like in no time. He was like so quick, right? And suddenly it focused on what happened a few years ago, which had been that particular incident at the petrol station, right? And he was
Yeah.
seeing the scene from above, and he saw himself punching the other guy on the floor, like in a fit of rage. But then all of a sudden, he said he was inside the guy who was being punched and seeing himself punch
Oh,
him.
wow.
Yeah, and as
And
he
then
was
him
being
getting
punched,
punched.
yeah, he said, I felt all the blows, and I felt the humiliation. It's like I was him. I felt the humiliation, the blows. I was in so much pain. And then it's like he became the poor man's mind, and he realized that the guy on that day had lost his wife, and he'd been drinking, so his wife had died. So when he became this guy being punched, he experienced all the
Wow.
emotion, all the humiliation, and also the pain, because he had a memory of having lost this beloved person who was his wife, but wasn't really. And then he came out of the man's body, and he was seeing the scene from above. But this time, he was seeing the scene from perspective of compassion. It's like, oh my God! And then he began to judge himself, and he began to say, "Oh, I wish I had handled things differently. I wish I hadn't hit him, even though he had punched me." It's
Yeah.
almost like he saw from his perspective, this guy just he wanted to die, and that's the reason why he started on someone else, because he'd lost his wife,
He
and
wanted to die because he's lost his wife.
because he lost his wife.
That's
So
emotion. I feel it in my heart.
it's so
That's a hell of
emotional.
a story.
Yeah, it's a hell of a story, and
I've had similar. No, I didn't have the NED, but I've had similar. I was out. I guess I'm going to tattle on myself. I was out surfing not long ago. I'm 49,
yeah,
46 maybe. Last time I had a bruiser of a fight. It wasn't that long ago. I was like 46 maybe. I'm out surfing. I'm going down a wave. There's a guy there that I don't care for over there in Venice, Florida, at the inlet where we surf. And he's been a jerk. He's a local there. I come and visit to surf. You're not, if somebody's already going, you're not supposed to just go in front. You're not supposed to go. They have the right of way, you know? They're
yeah,
up and going. You let them go. You go find your own. You go find another. That's the, that's the, I guess the rules in surfing. So this guy's looking right at, he comes out, he's got a mad face. He's looking right at me. I'm up and riding. I'm on my feet riding. He looks right at me, turns his head the other way, and I'm coming this way, comes right in front of me. So I veer out this way and get beside him, and I'm just kind of like with my hands out, like, hey, what are we doing here? The guy tries to shove me. He tries to shove me off.
Wow.
Well, it was like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah.
he hits me. He falls backwards. I hold my ground. I was 240 something pounds and full of muscle when he did. So
yeah,
I've lost some weight. He hits me. I don't move at all. I'm on a big long board, a 9-foot surfboard. I'm not going to lose my balance and fall. I'm steady on that. I'm footed on here. Yeah. So as he starts to fall backwards, he grabs my shoulders to prevent himself from falling. And at that point, I was like, okay, that's it. And I grabbed him by the shoulders and I just shoved him as hard as I could straight into the ocean. I didn't punch him. I shoved him into the ocean. Well, he went down and then got tangled in my surfboard leash. And then I was dragging him and it stopped the both of us. And by that time, we were close to shore, maybe waist deep water. So I stood up waist deep, kind of took a fight stance because I figured that, well, okay, at this point, it's going to be an old-fashioned put up your dukes. Well, he didn't want that. By then, he was over it. He felt that the force of getting thrown down like a rag doll. He didn't want to do the fight. So, but he did it first. I looked at him. He had cauliflowered ears. This guy was into MMA or something. He was a fighter because he was smaller than me. But why would somebody come at you like that? Well, he was confident because he was a fighter to the point of having 2 cauliflowered ears. But at this point, he didn't want it anymore. So he was just like, okay. So he was like, oh, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it, buddy? He says to me. And I was like, yeah, that was a good time. And we didn't punch, you know. Yeah. I got on my board and I went back and just minded my business after that because I'm not going to chase somebody for a fight. No. I'm just going to just stand and defend myself if they come. Yeah. I'm not going to go after a fight, you know. That's right. So I was like, okay, and I'm a middle-aged man, you know, for crying out loud. So I wasn't expecting any of this. Yeah. So as it turns out, there was a deeper story to all of this, like what you said. So everybody stands up on the jetties and they watch the surfing, you know, spectators. So people saw this. Yeah. And nobody intervened or anything, and they let us work it out. And his friends didn't come to help or none of that. It didn't turn into a big fight. So his board washed into the rocks and rolled and got broken. You know, his surfboard got broken in the rocks. Yeah. After this, because I had a leash and he didn't. So mine didn't. So I went back out and then he tried to play it off and he body surfed a little bit and then he left. Well, later on, I went back. And a close friend of his, because he was a local and another local guy, came to me and he was like reminiscing on it. And he was like, yeah, remember that time, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, we all told him, hey, you're out of your mind. Don't mess with that guy. You know, you're not going to get anywhere messing with that guy. But apparently he went out there trying to start a fight on purpose because he was having some kind of mental problem. And I don't know if it was over like a dead wife or anything, but it was known that he was having mental torment. Yeah. Mental health problems. Yeah. And so he did go out and try to start a fight. And it was coming out of something inside of him. You know, and I did feel bad. But I didn't punch or anything, but I felt bad because he was humiliated. Yeah. Once I heard that, I was like, that makes sense. I'm like, there was a reason that he was acting like that. Yeah. Now, I didn't go overboard and slug him and all that, but I still felt bad about throwing him down in front of all his friends and making him the laughing stock and everything. But in a way, though, thinking further, the universe, the way it works, you know, with this action, reaction, and lessons and everything, it's like somehow or another, it was meant for him to receive a lesson that day from me because he had been bullying people. He'd been getting away with bullying on people. Yeah. And the universe said no. And an anti-bully, me, was there that day. And I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't punch. But I did humiliate and I did ego destroy. Yeah. But I think it was meant to be. So I actually don't resent it now. And you know, same thing with that guy. I don't know if that would apply to the guy that had the near-death experience. Yeah. But, you know, from another perspective, he got punched unprovoked. Yeah. You know, and He punched
That's
back
right.
somehow or another. I think there was a lesson on even though the guy's wife died,
There's
there
a
was still a
lesson there.
lesson on his end
You can channel
about
those
going and
emotions in a
hurting
different way.
others somehow. It wasn't right, you
Yeah,
know. And I can see it that way from some of my own experience.
yeah,
That sometimes hostilities happen and negative things happen, but they are for the best in the grand scheme, even if it's ugly. I guess
that's
that's what
right.
I'm saying. Even if it gets a little bit
Absolutely.
ugly, that doesn't mean it's wrong or evil. That there could be a divine purpose in things that do go in an ugly direction. That's all I mean.
Yeah, yeah. That speaks to
Deeper in, you know,
yeah, no,
lessons are
absolutely.
happening, learning is happening,
Yeah. I mean, people can get lost
and
in
that
their
bully,
emotions and
that bully, I see him. When he still sees me, and whenever I come there, he looks at the ground. He won't look at me.
respect.
And I've never gone and made friends again after. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do the right thing and go make friends sometimes, especially having said that.
Yeah.
Try to make friends again. Just be like, hey, water under the bridge. Let's get over this.
It's like you
Because
kind of
as of right now, he looks at the ground when he sees me. I
yeah,
probably shouldn't let that go. I should probably go and try to stop that.
yeah.
We should be able to smile and talk. You know,
I mean, when
I'm
you're
not the
ready,
bull. He thinks of me. You know,
it's almost like you helped him achieve a kind of ego dissolution. You know, you
yeah.
need or ego
Oh,
fixing.
his ego was bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
mean,
then,
most of the times these people are just trying to make other people understand how they feel, and it's almost like they're not happy.
yeah,
They don't want others to be happy, and they go about it the wrong way. But at the end of the
yeah.
day, it's not. You shouldn't do that. And yeah, sometimes
You can't
people need
punch and
lessons.
bully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody likes a bully. Absolutely not.
No.
And
And I've always been one to take the bullies out. Back in school when
yeah,
people were doing bullying,
yeah,
I'd get them. I'd I'd scheme to get them
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
I didn't like people being bullied. When I was just in grade school, there was a girl with Down syndrome in my class, and so there was some other kids picking on her. I went
yeah,
and beat them up in a savage way. I left people hurt, bloody noses at the playground. I didn't know how else to react.
yeah,
I just knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right. And
yeah,
it led to me beating up some other kids at the playground.
yeah,
And, but I have a history of that. There was an African exchange student that came to our school, and somebody called him the N word. I lost it. I totally lost it.
yeah,
And I went and beat them up because here he is, a guest in our country, and you call him the N word here. This was in the early 1980s.
yeah,
It was common for that back then. And
yeah,
I wasn't having it. It wasn't that I didn't understand the word or I didn't hear people using it, because people were racist, very much so back then. But
yeah,
something about that situation really struck me. The audacity to
yeah,
go and abuse this exchange student who was a guest in our country. I
yeah.
just I lost it. I lost it, and I went violent, and I hurt some people.
I'd be cheering you on about the Down
And I
syndrome
went to the
and
principal.
about the the different races. It's not fair when they get picked on, especially when they come over and they're
No,
trying to make a living.
no.
You know,
And I'm against all of that. And Mexicans here in America, like, so you can imagine there's people that are picking on them, get out of my country, this and that. I've never been like that either. This is almost a year anniversary. You remember when my friend Beto Del Agua died? It was
yeah,
last August. And I was posting about a construction friend that died. It was a Mexican man, Beto Del Agua.
I
I
remember.
remember the day. It was August. It was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday the 13th, because I'd gone to the bank. And I took note that it was Tuesday the 13th, not Friday the 13th. I felt that peculiar when I saw the date. And that was some kind of a precognition, because while I was at the bank and doing lunch, they were driving him to the hospital from cardiac arrest. And I didn't know it. And I was thinking of Friday the 13th when I saw 13th on this Tuesday. And I went home, didn't. And then I went back and they weren't there. And I just thought, well, they've gone to another job project. I finished my day with my sons, and I come home and I get a call that he died, that he was rushed in for bypass surgery, and he didn't survive after following the surgery. That
Yeah.
was the news that I got,
I
and I was
vaguely
just
remember
like,
you mentioning it to me, yeah, about the
wow.
coincidence, the
And you know,
synchronicity, and
because of our views on death and everything, that's what I hang on for times like this.
yeah,
You know, I'm like, okay, his consciousness did like
carries on.
what you're describing, where the other guy, it got out, it understood that the world's a lesson, it got enlightened. It's not that sad from his perspective. That's the way I had to. That
Yeah,
was, you know, even if this wasn't true, I would prefer to think about it this way, wouldn't you? Even if it weren't true, and I believe it is true,
yeah.
that this
I
person
mean,
is into a better place now somehow.
yeah. I mean, as a materialist, I used to say to myself, "Oh, the upside of it is that if there is no experience, then we no longer suffer, and dead people are untouchable in that sense." But then again,
Yeah,
I would also think, wouldn't it be nice if they carried on, if they lived on? But then I would say to myself, I'd rather believe in a cold, harsh truth than a consoling lie. Um,
yeah, I used to do that.
yeah, I used to do that, right?
I used to
Yeah,
do
and
it.
I'm sure you used to, especially in the times when we used to think of, the four horsemen of new atheism as the be all and
Yeah,
end all, and these guys are amazing. They know more than everybody else.
yeah.
But now
I had given Sam Harris too much credit.
yeah,
I
yeah,
gave him too much credit as an intellect in my youth,
yeah,
and Daniel Dennett,
yeah,
all of them, and Richard Dawkins, Hitchens too.
yeah, yeah.
I gave
So
them too
did I.
much intellectual credit in my youth
Yeah.
than what they deserve. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Especially Daniel Dennett. It's to say that consciousness is an illusion. I mean, we've been over this.
Yeah,
It's just ridiculous because you need a mind in
yeah,
order to be deceived by something. In order for an illusion to exist, there needs to be consciousness. And consciousness,
yes,
At least Harris did say at one point, consciousness is the only thing in the universe that can't possibly be an illusion. And he was at loggerheads with Daniel Dennett about this, and also about free will, because I think Dennett was more of a compatibilist and Harris was more of a hard determinist. But for me, when I had my paradigm shift, and this is only going back like from 2022, so I haven't been an
I'm
idealist
gonna
as
have to
long as
go to
you
a
have.
plug.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk over here to plug in because I saw that I had a low battery.
Now
Just go
go
ahead.
for it.
Yeah,
Go for it. Yeah,
I'm gonna plug in.
I finally said to myself, look, I just want to know the truth, and if and it's crazy because once you do the reasoning and you also take into consideration your direct experiences and also what science seems to be pointing to, once you take everything into consideration, it's logical to think that reality couldn't be any other way but to have consciousness as a fundamental, right? And once you take that
Sure.
to its logical conclusion, you come to realize there is no death. Death is only an illusion,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
and then I thought to myself, right, if this is the implication of where my reasoning is leading me to, right? Because obviously idealism is more compelling, far more compelling than materialism. Materialism makes no sense. Then I take the
Hmm.
position of that Federico Faggin takes when someone asked me, and this happened to Federico Faggin. Someone said to him, do you know that your theory implies an afterlife? And Federico Faggin turned around and he goes, so what? you know, you have to be brave enough to accept where it's leading you. If that's the truth, that's what you embrace. It doesn't matter if it
So
sounds
be it.
silly to some people. Yeah, if the evidence is pointing to us being some kind of eternal witness, that's where you go, right? Regardless of how you
Exactly.
feel about it, regardless if
Hmm.
you fear an afterlife like Kastrup does, regardless if you're
Hmm.
apprehensive about some continuation beyond death, or if you like the idea of an afterlife, it doesn't matter what people think, whether you like it or not. That's the truth, and that's what you're going to face, and that's it. and
Yes, intellectual honesty.
yeah, because at least you're being honest to yourself,
Hmm.
and you're being honest with other people. And I understand, when someone, if someone isn't familiar with idealism and they lose someone, I understand it's a bit of a sensitive time when they've just lost someone. Sometimes it's like you have to approach carefully. You can't just go up to them and say, "Oh, don't worry, your loved one is in a better place." They continue, they live on, they're okay. You know, and I can say this to you based on NDE reports, which are 99% positive, really. And the ones that aren't positive, they don't remain nightmarish for long. They end up becoming positive once people let go of things and go with the flow
Yeah.
and accept the reality. It's even if it sounds too good to be true to some people, they might say, "Oh, these NDEs, they sound too good to be true." It's like people go to heaven and there's no worries, and they tell you, "Don't worry, we're fine. I love you. Go back to your life."
Mm.
It's almost like unbelievable, right? And on top of that, I mean, when I said this to Professor Tartaglia, because he was saying to me, "Oh, it sounds too good to be true." Um, it doesn't matter. If that's the reality, that's what you embrace. Because I was saying to him,
Yeah.
even the beings, when you're in an NDE, you have a life review. You've beat someone up. Suddenly, you experience from the other guy's perspective, and
Yeah.
you're judging yourself. And then all of a sudden, you're surrounded by beings of light, or even your loved ones, and they say to you, "Oh, don't worry, it's fine." They're very compassionate. It's all okay. Even if you've beaten someone up, it's fine. It's almost like it's one mind
Is
moving
that what
itself.
happened after? Is that what happened after he had the experience of being the other person? Then he was told that it was okay when he went back to
Yes,
the other side.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, he had an experience like that. So basically, after that, he was judging himself, right? Because he
Yeah.
he felt everything from the other guy's perspective, and it's almost like you judge yourself. And this is one example that Bruce Grayson uses for many other reports where people have life reviews. You don't always have a life review, but when you have one, sometimes it's your whole life. Sometimes it only focuses on certain portions of your life, right? That seem to have more meaning for some reason. And that particular
Mhm.
NDE, the guy felt bad. He was judging himself for how he had behaved, for how he handled that situation, right? Even though he was provoked himself. I mean, imagine you're inside your truck or your vehicle, and someone comes around and punches you in the face, and then you have no time to think. All you see is red. You jump out of the car. You just want to give him a good hiding, right? But after his experience, it changed him in life, and it was one of those experiences where beings of light said to him, they were compassionate, and they said they were non-judgmental, and they said everything's okay, everything's all right, right? Using some telepathy or something, right? He couldn't describe it, which is usually the case. So he gets back to his body, he's revived or whatever, he's fine. And the thing is, it's one of those cases where it was also corroborated because they tried to find out. They went back to the gas station. They tried to find out what was happening, what was going on. People had called the police, and it was actually confirmed that the guy was in trouble, and he didn't want to press charges. He just wanted to die. He was in a depressive state because he had actually lost his wife on that day. So the guy's NDE, the truck driver's NDE, confirmed those events, even though it was
Mhm.
separated by a few years
Yeah.
and the guy had moved on. And he was lucky enough to not have been arrested because the guy didn't press charges. But there you go. How it's one of those cases where how do you explain that he got, even though it was a few years after, how is it that he knew that much about that guy, the guy he had beaten up, when there were witnesses at the gas station that saw him, the truck driver, leaving? As soon as he realized what he had done, he jumped inside the truck and left. How is it that he knew? exactly what that guy had
Yeah,
been
because
going through.
yeah, because he didn't have any physical, say, witness to that.
No,
It had
no,
to just be a mental witness.
yeah, he was a
Yeah,
mental witness, and everyone else just saw the fight. They just saw the fight, nothing else. They couldn't have confirmed uh, to the truck
who
driver
did
on the
what?
air as he was running away. Someone shouted, "Oh yeah, by the way, he lost his wife." You know, none of that happened. And
Yeah,
the guy was in a depressive state. He wasn't sharing it with anyone. He was just drinking, and he was just reckless. You know, and these experiences, to me, point to a deeper reality of oneness, of like
yes,
if you can
of
access another
collective.
person's mind in that state, it tells me that it's on some level or just one mind, one consciousness, seeing from different perspectives, and it's spread out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, going back to the one mind fragmenting itself into many minds,
yeah,
according to that, now we have a theoretical possibility for how
yeah.
one mind could see into another
It
because they
fits.
are all interconnected. You know, I
That's
mean,
right.
it's reasonable. It's reasonable that he could have done this. Well, because now, so in this little course that I was doing for experiential realism earlier today, it comes out that all only experience is real, and life and death are both experiential. Basically, I mean that's the way what it's not death in the way that we think of it.
Yeah,
There's only experience. It doesn't stop. It's just there's always experience. It's eternal experience, and
yeah,
when there's near death experiences, that's why it's an immediate transition from waking state to astral or whatever that is they're experiencing.
yeah,
There's no break. It's just a continuity of experience. You know, experience itself is very continuous. I guess is the way
yeah.
this is working out. It's unbroken.
And it's funnily enough, even Sam Harris realized this at one point because he has a video called "The Paradox of Death," right? And throughout the video, he is reasoning, well, there's no gaps in experience, even when you go from one scene to the next in dreams, even though it's disjointed, there's a continuous stream of experience, and you don't ever
Yes.
experience being unconscious in your life. So he recognized that unconsciousness is a very um, shady concept, right? And then he comes to uh, the point of death, where he says, well, if all you can be is experience, he's almost thinking like an idealist in that video. And sometimes I just want to shake him. Come on, wake up! Look at what you're saying here.
Yeah.
That's where it's leading you to. If all you can be is experience, he goes, then there's a bit of a paradox with death, because if you die, and then you don't experience unconsciousness, so there has to be a continuation. He almost says that there's an afterlife, but he frames it as some kind of paradox within the physicalist framework. But then again, not long
Yeah.
after that, he was talking to his wife, and finally he interviewed his wife. And by this point, I think maybe he was getting a bit jealous because she was talking to Donald Hoffman. So yeah, it's funny how these things work out, really. But um, I mean, the way I see it, what I would really love to tell Sam Harris is, look, Sam, experience is reality. Consciousness is fundamental because it couldn't be any other way. Because you can't get a universe from absolute nothingness. Even Lawrence Krauss would say nothingness is something. He contradicted himself in a conference,
Yeah.
and he ended up saying that
A
this
universe
nothingness
from
is the
nothing.
physical, and and it just didn't make sense to anyone. And I would say to Sam Harris, look, there can't be nothingness. Nothingness is impossible because by definition it doesn't exist. The next level up from that in existence, which is the ontological primitive, is consciousness. It's where
Yeah.
everything happens. It's reality. It has to be, because it's irreducible. It's irreducible. It contains all perceptions. There's a kind of radiant emptiness about it that you can experience in meditation. He himself practices meditation, so he should know. And from this empty radiance, you can see that it's not nothing, because nothing is an abstraction in mind. It
Yeah.
couldn't be any other way. It has to be the ultimate reality. It's the truth. Consciousness is what do you call it? The essence, the sine qua non. Is the quiddity before the liquidity, before everything moves.
Yeah.
It's reality. It's the ultimate reality, and this is what the Vedic people, the Vedas, uh, all these people from the non-dualist traditions, they've been saying this for thousands of years, and it turns out to be true. Even in Hermeticism, in ancient Egypt, they also had the Book of the Dead, didn't they? And I
Yeah.
think Hermeticism is like a syncretism, isn't it? It's like a syncretic
Hmm.
tradition, and it brings all these concepts
Coming off of
together.
the Egyptian. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the way I see it. Like to settle the Hermetic part of Hermetic idealism. I only even use the word Hermetic because no one will understand it well if we call it Thothic.
yeah,
But I believe that it's what the Greeks took from a Thothic tradition from the Egyptians. But when you go study the Egyptians, they say they weren't not the originators either. That it was an Atlantean thing that came to them, is what they
right.
say.
Yeah,
So I mean, the buck gets passed back and back and back. So to me, what we call the Hermetic tradition, I guess, just to say this for viewers, a lot of people like try to argue that term and say that, well, no, that's only particular to the Corpus Hermeticum and this and that, and it's no older than that. Well, I'm not going to get into all that. It's obviously ancient. Whatever that was playing off of things that were more ancient that were by other names. That's how I handle it.
yeah,
It was Thothic before it was Hermetic. Obviously, the Greeks went into Egypt and credit the Egyptians with giving them knowledge. And then the
yeah,
Egyptians also pay it back and credit somebody else. And it just goes back and back, and we lose sight of things. I just get the idea that there has been wisdom traditions in the world all along, longer than we know. And
yeah,
they've gone by different names. And those today are known as, in the West, Hermetic, and in the East, Vedic.
yeah, yeah,
That's the way I see it. And those two are coming from ancestor philosophies that were the same, but
yeah.
under different names and by different peoples. But the philosophy itself, though it changes names through time,
It's essentially the
is
same
ancient.
message.
Is ancient. You know,
Yeah,
the principle of all is mind, ancient.
yeah,
Correspondence, ancient.
ancient.
Things like that. You know, and in the Kyballion written in 1908, he says in the book, he says none of this has been formally written down until now. He
Yeah,
says that in the book.
yeah,
So when people say, "Hey, I don't find," then others come back and say, "I don't see evidence of any of this Kabbalion in the Corpus Hermeticum, or very little or scant evidence of it." He said that it was never written down. So you go point at some writings and say, "I don't see it there." How smart
yeah,
is that? This is what I've been getting from for objections. You know, these are
yeah,
the kind of objections that I've had to deal with hermetics.
yeah,
And you know, they're silly objections, but I have to respond. And you know, yeah, sure, it's claimed. The claim is that it was never written down
yeah,
until now. Now it is. But you know, I've gone to the trouble of going back into the Bible, and you can find all seven hermetic principles in the Bible, in the Vedic scriptures, in the Egyptian. If you go looking, you will find all mind. It's there.
yeah,
Anybody that believes in a God believes in the first hermetic principle because God is in all mind. You know,
yeah. That's
God
right.
is
Yeah,
experiential. Does God have no mind? Is God not conscious? And does God have no experience? That's what I say to people when they try to
it's
come up with
idealism
these silly
everywhere.
objections. It's
Yeah,
you know, and it is. It's ancient idealism. So my thoughts are that what they were up to in Egypt and what we now regard, because due to the Greeks as Hermetic,
yeah,
it was idealism, really. And
yeah,
we're idealism is the rediscovery of that. That's the way I see it.
yeah. I think these
In the
people
modern,
arrived
we're
at
rediscovering.
the same conclusions through direct experience, through empirical observation about reality. That I think they've used the same methods that we're using today, and they had a lot more time to
Yeah,
look in depth and they realized that the same truth, and they've even, and obviously you will get the naysayers, because um, Leibniz used to say, because Leibniz favored Plato, and he used to say about Plato, well, for
Uh,
Plato, everything happens in the soul as though there is no body. But when you look at someone like, what's the guy that said there is no good God in the face of evil? It's Epicurus. He says for Epicurus,
mhm.
it's almost like everything happens in the body as though there is no soul. It's the reverse. But for Leibniz, Plato was the one who was right, and Plato is the one that a lot of physicists are now saying uh, it's like evidence is favoring Plato. The idealism of
Yeah.
Plato and what precedes Plato and all those traditions of everything being mental is what evidence is pointing to now. And I think I think we're witnessing already a big revolution in thinking. I think people are becoming more idealistic.
Oh yeah.
It's spreading. It's definitely
Yeah.
spreading.
And Plato it then credits Egypt.
Yeah,
He cites Egypt for his position. So I
there
mean,
you
yeah,
go.
that pushes the idealism back to Egypt. That
Yeah,
it was transferred to him from Egyptian sources that spoke to Greeks before his era, and then were passed down to him by other
yeah,
Greeks that were by Egyptians. Do I have it right? I mean, this is how I'm seeing the transmission of knowledge.
yeah.
Who was it? Solon in Egypt? No, Solon was. I'm talking about the story of Atlantis here in
Yeah, yeah,
particular, how
yeah,
it came. But I'm just using that as a segue into they got a lot of it from the Egyptians, not just the story of Atlantis.
yeah,
They went over there and they joined their mystery schools.
yeah.
They waited for like 20
I, I
years or more
I'm
for
interested
it
in
to be
that
admitted.
actually. I'm
Huh?
interested in the Atlantis because Plato spoke about Atlantis as well,
Yeah.
and
And he got it from older Greeks that got it from Egypt.
yeah, and especially about
The transmission.
the flood, the myths about the flood. It's in the Bible. It's in many stories, and it got passed down the generations. I remember watching Graham Hancock on Joe Rogan, wasn't it? And he was talking about this and all the
Yeah.
evidence that you find in North America, and also the erosion of the
Mhm.
pyramids due to
Yeah.
quite possibly acidic rain, and that some comet uh, hit the Earth
Hit
about
the northern
30,000
hemisphere.
years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, and just think
There
of
is evidence. I've watched all that.
yeah,
There's good evidence for all that.
yeah.
Have you ever watched Randall Carlson too, a friend of Graham Hancock? He's like a geologist kind of guy.
Oh, was it the same guy that you was on with?
Randall Carlson.
I haven't
He's
watched it,
got
but
a
the name
beard.
sounds familiar.
Well, he's in cahoots with Graham Hancock. But he's got some stuff. If you get into his YouTube and his stuff, I mean, they're going through He's going through like North America,
Yeah,
and you can see clearly where rapid ice melt ran across the entire continent until it reached either the Pacific Ocean,
yeah,
the Baja, the Baja Peninsula Sea,
yeah,
in the Gulf of Mexico. Like he's gone around and gone to the trouble of showing the paths that the meltwater took to get to the oceans, and I've watched that. It's
yeah.
compelling to me. It's
I'm
very
going to check it
compelling.
out because I really do think we need to update our official narrative. I think we've been sold a pack of lies or a pack of assumptions. I wouldn't go as far as to say lies, but I think that all these scientists, they've made lots of assumptions, and and I also think about the pyramids. I don't know if you heard recently that the scientists who made the presentation about the new technology, the I forget the name, aperture something radar. It's a bit like sonar, but goes deep into the ground,
Oh,
where they
yeah,
discovered
to the under
the
the
structures,
Giza.
the coils
Yeah, yeah,
under the
the
pyramids, these
coils that are
massive,
going down. Yeah,
right? And people were saying, oh, maybe it's not what you think it is. They were trying to downplay, the veracity of their presentation or the accuracy of the new technology, right? Because they're using satellites to probe deeply into the ground. But then the scientists actually did demonstrations of what this new type of radar technology can do in different
Hmm.
locations where we already know what's beneath the surface, and the
Oh,
images were
okay. To
crystal
test
clear.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, which supports the claim that those structures under the pyramids are real. And if that's the
Yeah.
case,
I know some stuff about it from Hermetic tradition. I'll say it
yeah,
because Timothy Hogan, the Knights Templar Grandmaster, has been talking about it in public. Um, Apparently we had some sort of cometary bombardment during the Younger Dryas period, and apparently our ancestors went to survive underground. This is the story I'm getting.
wow,
That because there was volcanic problem, there was an onslaught of problems. We had a polluted atmosphere. There were problems, and they took to living subterranean. And apparently, there are subterranean. We've just scratched the surface of it right now. They're going to find a lot more, he said. There's
yeah,
subterranean passages all interconnecting it all, and from that site to other sites and in all other places of the world. He's saying that that was a power plant. He's saying that they had wireless energy, and
wow,
that deep stuff what had been previous to the catastrophe.
yeah,
There had been a global civilization, and that was Atlantis. May have been a There may have been a headquarters Atlantis, but Atlantis was a complete atlas. It was a complete the world, the globe.
wow,
And the reason that we find these similar pyramids all around. Did you see also that they've been going underneath those other pyramids, like in the East and other places in Central America, and also finding down? Well, that's
wow.
because they were tapping the earth to do what was like Tesla wireless energy.
Wireless
Those
technology.
pyramids all had limestone on them with
Yeah,
pyramidion caps that have all been removed. Well, after the cataclysm and all this destruction, he said that the pyramids stopped working correctly. They stopped working as a power plant, as an
yeah,
energy field. So we had wireless energy in the
yeah.
around the globe from these old sites. That's the stories. I'm just reporting what's been said by Timothy Hogan.
Wow.
And somehow or another, it was a global civilization. It got broken down by the Younger Dryas cataclysms, but because of that, they had all this intricate underground way of surviving the catastrophe, and that people went down. And I don't know for how long they stayed down. You got to figure that the catastrophe was around what, 13,000, 12,000 BC?
Yeah, which coincides with when that comet
And
hit
then we
the
don't,
Earth.
you know,
Yeah,
so there was quite a long time that subterranean life might have been going on during that time before it came back out
yeah,
and repopulated and stuff. So then we see this, and they're saying that there could have been there might have been like separate attempts at bringing back civilization again
right.
in a Mad Max
Yeah,
scenario. I get what
yeah,
I get is that this is a Mad Max scenario that happened for real,
yeah,
and that we are the remnant of. There used to be high technology, and then there was a
yeah,
Mad Max situation, and then everybody was Mad Maxed, and technology was almost lost. But those that remembered it kept it alive as the Thothic tradition,
yeah.
the Hermetic tradition. The
Wow.
knowledge was somehow
Preserved.
initiated and preserved and kept alive, but the mass of everybody else got wiped back in time to an earlier evolutionary period
Yeah,
of tribal wanderers, except those that had the knowledge of how it was before. That's the story that I'm getting.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
Hermetics, and that they're by Saqqara. They have these subterranean
yeah,
passages too. I think in these other places, there's a hall of records over there that they've talked about. That's there, waiting to be found. There is a hall of
wow.
records
We need
waiting
to
to be found.
excavate.
If the day comes that we find that, then we're going to know some real, true history. I hold out for that day.
Yeah,
And I think it's coming because I mean I've heard so much about this. It all makes sense to me.
it's gonna
Human
destroy.
beings have been here for a long time. I mean, the,
Yeah,
you look how fast we develop technology from not having it. You can't tell me this is the first time that we human beings have been able to find technology.
within a
We
hundred years.
must have found it on repeat.
Yeah,
Yeah, we must have found it on repeat in the past. That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
and I'm not going to overstep what can be proven, but personally, I believe this,
Yeah.
you know?
So do I. I mean, that's where the evidence is pointing at. I think anyone who believes that the narrative we've been sold and that the historical records, when we have that saying that to the victor the spoils, and the victors always
Yeah,
write the narrative, write history. Anyone who believes that they got everything accurate about what's happened in the past, especially thousands of years ago, you know, I think they're naive. They're being naive. I think that the first time around we're bound to get a lot of it wrong, and
yeah,
I think a lot more. I really do believe that if me and you went back in time and we weren't allowed to record anything, we went back, say, like 13,000 years ago. We saw the comet, we saw everything play out, but we weren't allowed to record anything. And then we returned to our time and we told people exactly what happened. I think most people would say these two are fucking nuts. There's no,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think that's what
Well,
would happen.
everybody's like, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? And I mean, the thing is, we are finding evidence. We found in Turkey, and so when we grew up, I don't know what years, you graduate. When did you graduate for high school?
So I was born in
For me, it
81.
was
I would have
1995,
gone to uni around 2001, 2000, 2001, 2002.
around my brother's age.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a
Well,
geriatric
so and it
geriatric millennial.
they were still they were still teaching that civilization began after around 4000 BCE. Then
Yeah,
weren't they? I mean, this was before we got into Turkey, and they started getting into these findings, and then civilization. Oh, now it's back to like 9000 BCE.
yeah.
When I was a kid, they thought it was like 35 in the 3000s.
Wow.
That was the first civilization ever, and how they couldn't have been more wrong. Now they've been finding other sites that date back to like 9000. Well, how much of the world have we uncovered and unearthed? Obviously, not much, because look at these coils that were there the whole time and everybody was oblivious,
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
under separate sites. So
Yeah,
there's a lot that the Earth, in my opinion, the Earth is hiding a lot of secrets. It's not as if we've dug up the entire Earth to find all
yeah.
the, I mean, to me, when people are saying, oh, well, where is it? Well, come on, absence of evidence isn't evidence of
Of
absence.
absence.
You know,
And here's
you
us
know,
thinking with our hubris that
you got
we're
to
the most
find it. It's there.
civilization, the most advanced civilization that has ever existed. That it's us. Since the 20th century, look how much progress we've made.
Yeah,
We are the best. And I think we're not. We're only scratching at the surface. I think
yeah.
there's been um, a lot more that has been happening on this planet that we can't even possibly imagine. I really do believe. I really do think so.
Yeah,
And those structures speak for themselves. You can clearly see, and they go into the ground by several kilometers.
way down.
It's unbelievable. But I think people want tangible evidence. I think they want some kind of deep excavation. If that's possible at some point in the
Yeah,
future, if we actually manage to get permission to do that and people see it for themselves,
yeah.
I think that there's going to be some kind of revolution in thinking, in common knowledge about the pyramids and what's happened in human
I
history.
wonder,
It's going to rewrite human history, really.
don't you think that we should be able to go if that happened theoretically, scientists should be able to go there and then replicate that wireless electrical technology that they were using. If that were the case, if this
Yeah,
is all true, they could probably go back and analyze what's going on there and refigure, and then maybe we would have wireless electricity then.
yeah,
Maybe all these wires around the world come down. I'm looking at it as a positive. I mean, what if we can glean technology from going and excavating those things?
yeah,
But Timothy Hogan says that the Knights Templar is way back in the 1100s or whatever. When they went to the Holy Land and they went into the Middle East, they did go into all of that. He has said recently in an interview that within the Knights Templar, they're now releasing this knowledge, but it has been secret knowledge. But that as far back as their origins, when they were over there in the Middle East doing the Holy Land, protecting pilgrims in the Holy Land. And then what they
Yeah.
were really doing was archaeology. And then that was how they got there, got supported by the church. They uncovered a
Ah,
lot of things. And apparently from what he's saying, I think they have actually gone down, you can go down in there. I
yeah.
think I just heard a talk from him recently where I'm pretty sure he was saying that Templars had been down there. And in Turkey, Templars had been in there too. And there's graffiti from Knights Templars on these things that they're just now
Wow.
unearthing.
Which
So the
confirms
Templars
the
had gotten in
story.
there and penetrated it in the 1100s through 1300s.
Wow.
So these are the stories that I'm hearing on the Hermetic side,
Yeah.
from Hermetic sources.
That's amazing, man.
And then these are the same ones that are saying there's a lot more that's going to come out. They're only releasing it in increments. But
Yeah.
but the idea that I've gotten is that they intend for it to be released and they intend for society to have this technology, but they're waiting until we're not at a self-destructive level in
Right.
society before
Yeah.
this technology is then fully released. Like they know it, but they're
Yeah.
preserving it to protect us from ourselves. That's the story
Right.
I've got.
Right. So we're being shielded. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
but we are maturing in such a way that they have been letting out information
Yeah.
periodically. The Arks of Covenant, the
Right.
monoatomic gold that's alchemically made. They're selling it now. I had posted a link. I don't know if you saw it, but I was going to buy some of it. Mana in the Bible is monoatomic gold. They cook it down into a powder. That it gets cooked down into a powder, and it has weightless properties. He's saying that they put mana in those arcs, and those arcs had poles. You always see the priest carrying. He says
Right.
that's not to hold it up. That's
Yeah.
to keep it from floating away into oblivion,
Yeah.
and that those things floated of their own accord, and that they would tether these things to megalithic stones, and it would make the properties of the stones light, and they
Right.
would, so I've heard a lot. And that's just what they're telling people who
It's
are
the
uninitiated.
philosopher's stone,
You
isn't it?
know,
That in the crucible they
yeah,
can
yeah.
possibly
The
extract
philosopher's
gold and
stone is
yeah.
alchemical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chemical.
it's part of the philosopher's stone, and they eat
Yeah.
it. So the pharaohs would ingest. They would make cakes out of the mana, and then it would be ingested,
Yeah.
and apparently it has healing properties. So now the long
Manna from
lives
heaven.
part comes in. How
Yeah.
did they have long lives in these stories? Well,
Yeah.
if you're consuming things that heal properties and eradicate sickness and disease, you'll live.
Yeah.
You know,
That's right.
it might even have anti-aging properties.
Yeah.
That is the philosopher's stone.
That's what
The
Paracelsus used to say. The guy into Hermetica, that they eventually became known as the father of toxicology because as an alchemist, I think he was the first one to introduce chemicals and minerals into medicine so people would heal themselves. And he used to say things like, if the body is in harmony with nature in terms of chemicals, then you can live longer, you can preserve your health, and you can live longer, which makes sense, really. And but he was, funnily enough, he was also a diviner and a prophet, and he wrote the prognostications, which ended up being studied by the Rosicrucians. And I think it's like an esoteric order, isn't it? But basically, this guy was into Hermeticism and
They're
Neoplatonism.
hermetic. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Rosicrucians are hermetic. The Knights Templar are hermetic. The Freemasons. So
it's
like
all
they're
tied.
all hermetic.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that the Hermetic philosophy, nobody owns the Hermetic philosophy, and that's why I felt justified in creating Hermetic Idealism.
Right.
Because in the Hermetic order of 21st century idealists, I qualified it. A Hermetic order of what?
Yeah.
Idealist philosophy.
Yeah. Idealist
So
philosophy.
we have our
Absolutely.
own type of Hermetic order and I'm going to register that with the government. I'm going to make that will be just like a Rosicrucian or a Freemason or something. So eventually, when
Yeah.
we register with the government, this is going to be a real Hermetic order. But those that are into science and philosophy of science in the modern world,
Yeah.
and we don't need to be secret now. So we're the secret society thing done.
Yeah.
Even the secret societies are trying to become less secret because the time to be secret we're outgrowing now. That
Right.
seems to
That
be
makes perfect sense actually, because
so. Me
now's
coming
the
at it
time to,
new,
yeah,
yeah, to come out with it.
yeah,
They've been waiting for the Aquarian age to get
that's
near
right.
enough to
Yeah,
release the information. So for 2,000 years, people have been sitting on this. I'm to understand that Hermetic and Thothic influences have been sitting on all of this information. What's underneath the Giza? All of that.
right.
Giza power plant, all of that. They have been sitting on this information for thousands of years,
Until the
waiting
time is
for us
right.
to go through the dark ages and clear the dark ages enough to where we could be responsible enough as a society to have this technology
You're
without
right.
destroying the planet.
That ties into the
That
precession, doesn't it?
it's an honorable thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's
It's
honorable
to do,
what they've been doing.
right, because it can potentially, this philosophy can potentially harmonize the world. I mean, if people
Yes,
come to understand idealism, then you become immediately more compassionate towards other people, because if it's all one mind, um, immediately it brings people closer together. It's like me and
yes,
you and everyone else. We're the same entity, as it were. We're the same consciousness seen from different perspectives. We're all capable of suffering. It emphasizes the fact that we can all suffer and we're all the same person, as it were. I don't even like to say person, but you know what I mean. It's like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
consciousness, and it can improve our morality. It improves ethics, and the time is right, because we've already gone past. I remember from reading Jung's Ion. I remember there was a diagram. One fish goes up and the other one goes down, and then there's Aquarius, isn't it? The age of Aquarius. I don't know if that ties into the precession. It's like we go,
yeah. It's the second age. So yeah, it's
yeah,
like, Aquarius. Well, I don't have the notepad here, but I have with my courses and stuff. I'm
yeah.
pre-recording courses.
Oh,
I'm going to
brilliant.
do a lot of procession
Yeah,
illustrated in these courses that I'm doing.
yeah.
So it'll come out. But the idea is every 26,000 years it's like a sine wave. It's done as a
It's a sine
circle
wave. Yeah,
for sake of maps, but
yeah,
it's a sine wave. So the tops are the golden age and the bottom is the dark age. Well, what happens is when you're coming off of the golden age, when we had the cataclysm, the younger dryas, that was the second descending age.
right.
Leo, age
Yeah,
of Leo. That that structure is facing the sun rising in Leo, but not just that. It's very particular. So
yeah.
that takes us to the age of Leo, and we might say, okay, well, it's also when Orion's belt stars are at their lowest on the meridian.
Right. Yeah,
This was covered by Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval in the book The Message of the Sphinx.
yeah,
It's an older book.
yeah.
So they realized that Orion, the axis of Orion's belt stars, is at its lowest on the meridian
Right.
as the Sphinx is staring at the sunrise in Leo. That
Yeah.
takes us back to around 12,000,
Right.
12,500 BC or so, which coincides with the Younger Dryas. Well, if you put that on the sine wave, and I have some notes on this. You have the second. So, I don't know if this happens on repeat because when you draw a bunch of sine waves, how old is the Earth? Well, older than we know, probably older than anything will ever give it. It could be infinitely old for all we know, and we
Yeah.
just think it had a beginning.
Yeah.
You know, so but within the world, every 26,000 years, there's a full sine wave. From top to top or bottom to bottom is like 25 and change
Yeah.
thousand years. Well, in the history of the world, you know how many of these things have happened over and over and over? You can pack a lot of 25, 26,000 year
Wow.
increments
Yeah.
into the history of the entire Earth.
Many
So
cycles.
the idea is that life on Earth has evolved to this sign. It's the light cycle. Of
Yeah.
course, the light cycle has had an effect on evolution. So by the time humans got here, I think a lot of us think that all life on Earth has evolved around the natural light cycle, which is precession and which has peaks and troughs in dark ages
Yeah.
and higher ages of light. So something about coming off of the peak and beginning the descent. Well, at least the last time cataclysm struck. This to me looks like a warning to future generations
Yeah.
that every time we get to this age of Leo Aquarius, cataclysm happens. Now we are straight across from it on the upturn. Pisces was the first age of the ascending side of
Right.
the circle.
It symbolizes
If I
Christ.
did a sine wave, we would have bottomed out in Pisces, and
Yeah.
then we're coming up into Aquarius, right across diagonally on the circle.
Yeah.
We're in Aquarius Leo, the opposite of Leo Aquarius. So
Right.
that, and then we're going back again. Now we're putting this all together now. In my mind, I think it's entirely feasible that this is a message from our ancestors that somehow or another the remembering happens over here during the second ascending age, and we have, I don't know, 10,000 or more years to prepare for cataclysm, that we
Right.
might be able to understand there's a cataclysm,
Yeah.
that there will be another one like the Younger Dryas, that this happens, and
Yeah.
that next time we ought to be better prepared somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is speculation, but you can see that could be. Why not speculate that way? Why not look at it? Why not
Yeah.
suppose that there might be global catastrophe, and we might be able to predict it, and we might be able to develop the technology to do something about it before it happens this
Before
time?
it happens, yeah, ahead
So
of
that's
time.
what my mind,
Yeah.
and it's pure speculation, admittedly, but a speculation that could be to the benefit of the world.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think through these myths and symbols and and images and iconography, I think we can derive something quite real. It points to something real. It's not just fiction. And in fact, it can be argued, as Jung said, that fictions can contain truths, can speak to
Yeah,
reality. And
yeah,
and we can also like might not even be a stretch to say that with the age of Aquarius, it implies water cleansing, the washing away of many things. It could mean like a restructuring of everything that we have come to know or that we're used to be replaced by something else. And it could be that many things will get destroyed, washed away, unwanted things. It could be a complete,
yeah.
kind of like a circumcision, like of unwanted aspects of humanity. And then what we end up with as a result might be something more refined, more spiritual, more true to how we feel
More
about
idealistic,
ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah,
More idealistic, enlightenment, mind. We're going to understand mind better. So it's like they knew the fact. What makes me think there's something to this sine wave bit, and that people there have always been priests and knowledgeable people by whatever name that
yeah,
have been preserving knowledge through time. It must have happened enough times to where they understood that we will go into a dark age, because
yeah,
there's been other dark ages that we've been through before, because they took so much attention in Egypt to preserve knowledge in such a way that it would last through the dark ages in stone, in monolithic stone. The motivation for this stuff being monolithic and being in stone like it is preserving.
yeah,
And they're the ones that believed in cyclical time. They didn't believe in linear time. So the way they set it up is that they were trying to store knowledge like a granary
yeah,
for a later date when humanity would be able to then pull it out, and a cosmic winter was coming. Like the low side was cosmic winter, like
yeah.
the Kali Yuga is the winter solstice in
The
the
Kali
grand
Yuga,
scheme,
yeah, that's
right?
right, yeah,
Is the winter solstice, and that later Aquarius is when we're coming into spring. It's time for planting again, and the
yeah,
seeds are there in Egypt, and the seeds are there in all these old monolithic sites, and the Templars and all these old Hermetics have been stewards or farmers laying in wait in secret,
yeah,
quiet, and not allowing this to be public all the way through the dark winter into the next spring season.
yeah.
And they now, when that we're getting closer to Aquarius, what they're saying is it's time to plant the seeds. So now
Mm,
they're coming out and they're starting to reintroduce seeds of knowledge, and they're talking about, they claim that they've recovered a lot of these ancient technologies,
yeah,
like the arcs, and that they understand the power plant aspect, the wireless energy
Yeah, like
that
Tesla.
once was.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Tesla. And I guarantee you, he must have had some. If he had any contact with the Knights Templar or the Freemasons or any number of groups, then he would have known that. And
yeah,
that's why Tesla knew what he knew. I think he got to get it from initiates. I
yeah,
don't think he just happenstanced into this stuff. I think he knew something very
yeah.
specific from initiates that he never divulged
You must have come across
and
it.
that he never really crossed over and like made public. But I think that he had access to that knowledge.
Yeah. Wow. There's so much that we
And
don't
that's
know.
why
But
he was thinking about wireless electricity
yeah,
because he knew they used to have it.
because he knew about
This, according to a
frequency,
Christian, this before the
vibration
time of
frequency.
Noah, before the flood,
Yeah,
Christians generally grow up believing that before the flood, we were highly advanced coming off of Adam. That
right.
there was an advance, there was advancement, and then the flood, and then we lost it. That's the way I grew up as a Christian boy over here as a Protestant. That's what I was taught. I
Yeah,
don't know if everybody teaches the same, but that's what I was taught. I
yeah,
was taught for some reason that we had advanced technology prior to Noah's flood, and
yeah,
that after the flood, well, that's just a metaphor, and it's not exactly the way they've taught it.
yeah,
But in a roundabout way, it's true. There were
yeah.
floods.
There were
It
floods.
wasn't
Absolutely.
exactly as the myth goes, but there were floods, and apparently, as I'm finding out now, it's not far fetched that there was advanced technology.
Yeah, it's
And
not
if people are
far-fetched
Christians,
at all.
they should believe this already.
Yeah. And I also think that we're bound to get
And
more
Jews
wisdom from
and
Protestant
Muslims.
denominations than, say, the Catholic
Yeah,
Church, because I think they're too rigid, really, and not just
yeah,
morally, but in the way that they interpret the texts. And we've discussed about Scripture before, haven't we? Like the way
yeah,
they interpret it now, it's too what's the word we used? They overlook the metaphors. It's too literal.
yeah,
It's literalist
yeah,
interpretations, and they completely miss the point. They miss the wisdom in the Bible. I'm not saying that there isn't a lot that was added to the Bible in terms of trying to control populations, but I think the wisdom that was preserved in the Bible is still there in metaphorical form, figuratively. You know,
yeah. Figuratively,
yeah. And if you take it like just simple stories like Jonas and the whale, if you just take it literally, it just sounds like nonsense. Like this guy was swallowed by a whale and he remained there for 3 days and then he came across a giant serpent. But once you start to examine it in terms of psychology, you begin to realize that he was trying to shirk his responsibilities as he was told, what to do by God. It's a call to responsibility. It's a call to action. If you see that something isn't right and there's something telling you you need to do something about that, because he was supposed to travel to Nineveh to
to Nineveh. Yeah,
yeah
yeah,
to
Nineveh.
sort things out, because there was a lot of chaos happening there. And he had a call to action, but then he tried to ignore the
Yeah,
responsibility.
run.
So he ended up um, going into the belly of the whale, and it's like being overwhelmed by his uh, deep unconscious, the Jungian unconscious, not proper unconscious, because
Yeah,
I think it's a conscious mind, but that we humans normally aren't privy to. But he went there, he was flooded by it, and there he had to confront the reality where the whale told him, if the two of us stay here, we're going to die, right?
hmm
And that's when he came to his realization on how to deal with the Leviathan, which was about in the sea. And the whale told him, if we stay here, we're going to be eaten by Leviathan, which is, you can interpret it as the serpent of the world. It's chaos, but the
yeah,
chaos can teach you something. It can improve yourself. And that's why at the end of the story, he tells the whale, swim up to Leviathan and let me deal with this. And then he goes on to the tongue of the whale and he speaks to Leviathan and he says, if you don't go away, I'm going to cut your tongue off and feed it to the other fish or something like that. And the story, as the story goes, Leviathan looks at Jonas, and suddenly he's terrified because the serpent realizes Jonas is circumcised, and because he's circumcised, is with the Lord, is with God, and the
Yeah.
serpent runs away terrified. And the thing is, how do you interpret that? You can only interpret it in terms of the circumcision is him having shed aspects of himself that are no longer useful. So is
Yeah.
a more perfected version of himself, and now is willing to face whatever comes, and nothing is an unstoppable force. And
Yes.
when you read the story like that, it makes much more sense than the literalist interpretation that atheists like to latch onto in order to be able to say, "Oh, look at
Yes.
that story. It sounds ridiculous," you know.
It was stories like that that made an atheist out of me as a Christian boy. It's a synchronicity that you brought that one up. It was that story, Jonah, as well as the story of the axe head that fell off. Was this a story of Elijah or
Yeah.
Elisha, where the axe head had fallen off and it floated in the river? The metal axe head was found floating. Is a miracle story. So
Wow.
I got to thinking about that at about the age of 15, in the wake of my sister drowning and dying, a wreck, and I decided that it was all make believe. This is a fairy story. And I thought I was so, I'm just going to come out with this now and just say it. I was so humiliated inside that I had been so stupid, that I had been so naive to accept the Jonah story, literally, or the floating axe head in the river. And then I started thinking of more silly stories, the donkey talking,
Yeah.
all the stories, because I didn't, nobody, you know what? It would have avoided this if my church would have told me that the Bible was metaphor. My
Yeah.
church told me that the Bible is literal, and that made me into an atheist because I
Yeah.
just by the time I got to be about 15, I thought I was free thinking and self thinking and thinking about it, and it wasn't on my radar that these were metaphors or allegory. So they were either literally true or totally false, and that made an atheist of me. That made me a secularist, and that made me a physicalist and a materialist for the next 10, 12 years,
Yeah.
probably
That's what
12.
happened to Richard Dawkins,
Yeah.
right? The church made him an
And
atheist
then I
because he
had
was
the
interpreting.
experiences,
Yeah.
pantheism changed me again, you know.
Yeah.
But for 12 years, that's why I was a materialist, because these are fairy stories, obviously.
Yeah.
And if you think they're fairy stories and you don't have the a benefit of understanding them as allegory and metaphor and
Yeah.
poetic truths, well, then you're lost. Then now you're a nihilist. And that's
Yeah.
what happened to me. And I
Yeah.
feel like pantheism saved me,
Yeah.
you know, from nihilism. But it was this story, it was this very story that made an atheist of me as a young boy.
Jonas.
Now I can appreciate the hell out of it. I love the Jonah story now. The way
Yeah.
you say it, it gives me all kinds of belief and uplifting feelings
Yeah.
now. So I went from losing God
To
to
gaining.
regaining
Yeah.
in the way that you've just described. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I prefer this.
Yeah.
I prefer understanding the Bible and theology as metaphor and allegory and poetry,
Yeah.
truths that are expressed through a different vessel.
Yeah. And it's truths that are expressed in a way that um, prose can't capture it. It's poetic, it's metaphorical, and it's useful
Mm-hmm.
in our lives because we can all, at certain points in our lives, we can all relate to Jonas. We can all become Jonas. We all have dark
Yeah,
nights of the soul, where we go to the belly of the beast and we're
yeah,
tormented, and then we realize we have to do something about this. So it gets us to be more responsible and to have faith. Because one thing about faith is, you hear a lot of atheists say that, oh, faith is just believing without evidence. But the thing is, faith is necessary when you're in trouble. And in order for you to get yourself out of trouble, you have to believe that there's a way out. The only way
yes,
to look for it is for you have faith, to have faith that there's a way
Yes.
out. Otherwise, if you don't have that, if you just go by evidence, what if all the evidence around you is telling you that you're in danger and it looks like there's no way out? What are you going to do? You're just going to say to yourself, oh, I might as well not even try. It's just a nihilistic world and there's no way out.
You
But
know,
the thing is, if you don't have faith, you're going to perish in this world,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's faith, and that's good faith. I think that what happened is, to me, put me on the chopping block. I was, in a fundamentalist Protestant denomination growing up. The faith that I was given by them was misguided faith.
Yeah,
It was faith in utter nonsense. It
yeah,
wasn't faith directed in the right direction. So at some point later on, in life, I realized my problem is not with belief. My
yeah,
problem is not with faith or the concept of God.
yeah,
It is with people who misuse those things.
yeah. It's the wrong
And it's
kind of
still a
faith
problem.
where they say
I
to
still
you,
have a problem
yeah, they say to you,
with the
you have
misuse.
to believe without question. That's what they say to you.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's a
well, if
misuse of faith.
it's a misuse of faith because if you just believe anything without question, then you're prone to being manipulated by all sorts of people. It just doesn't work. But when it's the
It's an
proper
unhealthy
faith,
faith.
yeah, that the kind of faith that is useful is the one that is a bit like hope, but goes beyond it because
Yeah.
hope doesn't quite cover it. You can be in a situation where there's actually a film I watched with my brother-in-law the other day where it's about a woman who's she's a soldier, right? I think she was a Navy SEAL or something like that. So she's a soldier, and she's with her sister and her friends, and the sister and the friends they're completely scared about this group of guys that surrounded the house, and they're threatening them. So they barricade the doors and the windows, because the soldier woman is saying to them, "This is what you have to do. We have to protect ourselves, and we have to be ready for when they come into the house, because at some point they're going to break in." And
Yeah.
at one point, this woman, one of the sister's friends, says to the soldier one, "Oh, soldier woman, why don't you save us already if you're so good?" And it's like that's a complete misunderstanding of what it means to be a soldier, because a soldier has to be careful. If you don't know what you're
Yeah.
up against, you have to
Yeah.
stay, safe in the house, and at the same time,
Hmm.
you have to be prepared to fight. And the thing is, you can't
Yes.
just say to yourself, "I hope that we're going to have this outcome." The
Yeah.
soldier actually, it's almost like the soldier is the embodiment of the hero archetype, the savior, like Jesus Christ. He's ready for
Yes.
anything. And she says, you have to be ready for what's to come. You have to expect the worst, but you have to try. You can't just be pessimistic. You have to try, and you have to
Yeah.
believe that there's a way out. Because if you don't
Yeah.
believe
Belief
that,
is
you're done. And to
belief
me,
is so important.
yeah, and that's the message from a film. And even though it's fiction, it speaks to something profound. It speaks to the hero archetype. It's almost like the embodiment of Jesus Christ, the Savior, who bears the cross
Yes.
and he rises above it, you know.
Of
And
which we are all supposed to be individually. We are supposed to be
yeah,
like
that's
the
right.
Christ. We're supposed to
That's
bear
right.
our own cross.
That's right.
Doesn't it say pick up your cross and follow me? I mean, for crying out loud.
Exactly.
Look how misinterpreted that has been. I mean, people don't pick up on the fact that you are supposed to do what Jonah did. You
Yeah.
are Jonah. Well, let me go add some nuance here. The Jonah myth, he's in the belly of the beast for 3 days and 3 nights. So there's a representation of there's astrotheology involved in there, along
Yeah.
with the psychology. There's
Yeah.
also embedded in there the 3 days and 3 nights of the winter solstice, where the sun is in the belly of the beast or so,
Yeah.
in a way. There's an astrotheology part to that too. To the circumcision, there's something else. Why, sir? It's understood that the Egyptians were practicing circumcision. It's
Yeah.
possible that the Jews got it from the Egyptians. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's possible.
That's
Just
some
don't
kind
know if
of
that's a thing.
literal ritual.
But they had it. The Egyptians had it,
Yeah.
and it's so. What is that? I've had to think about it. What is the meaning? Why is circumcision such a freaking thing in the Bible, for God's sakes? I was just, looking at a male dog, and the answer came to me. It separates us a little
Funny.
bit from the animal kingdom. A human being, it makes you, it's take, you're born an animal.
Yeah.
Circ, Animals are uncircumcised. We're animals that are aspiring towards being spiritual beings or something more
Yeah.
than animal, right?
Yeah.
That's the circumcision. So as a rite, they began removing it so that man doesn't resemble beast, because a bull is uncircumcised. A
Yeah.
dog is a primate, which we come from somehow. Whether it was evolution or genetic tampering from aliens or whatever, somehow
Yeah.
or another, we're primate and something else.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, and what if that's it? What if it's that we're hybrids? The hybrid theory. What if the Anunnaki were aliens that were advanced, that came here and genetically engineered us with their DNA, and the primates that had evolved naturally on the earth? That's still a reason for circumcision there, you
Yeah.
know, because if the aliens were something other, or something other than like these animals that we're mixed with,
Yeah.
it's a way of making man different than animal. That's what
Yeah.
I. So to me, that intuitively, that's what circumcision came out of.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it doesn't matter if people are circumcised, uncircumcised in the literal sense, but I think that was like a spiritual
Yeah.
meaning that then got into ritualized. So when Jonah, think about that, when he's there appearing as among the circumcised,
Yeah.
there's that meaning too. The chosen or whatever, the chosen, you called you the term you used was chosen of God. Well, God being a spiritual concept higher than the animal kingdom. This is like man trying to rise out of the animal kingdom that he's come from, that he is in a transition. You can
Yeah.
see all of that embedded in the rite of circumcision.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't talk about that much, but it's something that I figured out, I don't know, 15 years ago or so.
Yeah.
I was talking about that. And there were people arguing with me saying that no, that's absolutely not it. But I found their arguments to be unconvincing. So
Yeah.
I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
Do
Uh,
you
uh,
see the logic there? I mean, what does it do? It makes us different than all the other male animals.
it does.
None of the other animals are uncircumcised, but and even most of I would say, I don't even know the percentage of human
It
beings
makes a
that are.
distinction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes a
It makes
distinction.
a symbolic distinction, definitely.
So that's the way I see it. You know, it's
Yeah.
intuitive. I don't have some hard evidence that that's the case. It's
No.
just intuitive.
And it's quite possible that there's already alien DNA on Earth. I mean, and panspermia, for example, isn't as crazy because they've been finding
No,
all sorts of ingredients for certain amino acids on asteroids, and they crash on Earth, and it's the the basic elements that you can put together to derive some kind of life, and we still don't know how it happens. Nobody knows how abiogenesis takes place, but we already have
yeah.
evidence of ingredients for life on asteroids, and
Mhm.
there's a theory that says, and this is the reason why Jeremy Clarkson, I don't know if you've heard of him, the guy who presents Top Gear, or used to present Top Gear, the guy who used to travel around the world, drive all sorts of
I think I
vehicles.
have heard of it.
Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson, right? He actually owns a farm here in England, right? And when he decided to sell mushrooms, you know what he called them when he sold them? Space penises, because space penises, because this guy said to him, he told him about the theory of mushrooms, fungi possibly having come from space, so they're aliens.
Mhm.
And he said, and the way they reproduce, the stalk is almost like a penis, and then the head of the mushroom is like
Huh.
the testes or something like that, So there's spores and stuff like that. So you can almost, and the guy was saying to Jeremy Clarkson, you could almost think of mushrooms like penises. So when Jeremy Clarkson came to sell the mushrooms to people on his farm, he called them, for a certain amount of price, however many, couple of quid or whatever, for a portion of mushrooms. He called them space penises. Space penises for, you know, a couple of quid.
It's
but,
it's pretty funny.
but when he heard of the theory, he was completely mesmerized. He was like, "Wow! So I'm selling aliens here, alien life forms," and in a way, I know you're laughing. You're laughing because in a way, it's almost like space penises formed on Earth. They landed on Earth. They weren't penises yet, but
Yeah, but it's like taking panspermia to a whole new level.
yes, yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's it's almost
Oh,
like as above, so below. Panspermia within
yeah,
spermia.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, if that can happen on Earth through mushrooms, God knows what's going on with humans. I mean, if we already have
Yeah,
Neanderthal DNA, and they say Neanderthals were actually much more intelligent than what we
yeah.
gave them credit for. God knows about what's going on because we don't know for sure. There's a lot of junk DNA that they talk about, and they don't know the function of that DNA, and and that's why I like to listen to Dennis Noble. The guy who tends to criticize Richard Dawkins, but there's
Hmm.
so much that we don't know about the human gene pool, the genome. We don't know if it had some
Yeah.
external influences along the way, along the human evolution. And maybe it was seeded by an alien life form in the past.
Let me see if I
Maybe
can
it
find it.
even came from Mars or something, like that
Uh,
film. Um,
I'm going to look something up real quick while you're on that.
yeah, there's a film by Ridley Scott, I think, which is an offshoot from the Alien series of films. What's it called? And basically that um it's like an offshoot from the Alien series of films, and basically the um the human race, according to the narrative, Prometheus, that's it, that's the name of the film.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yes,
Yeah,
in the beginning
yeah.
of Prometheus. Yeah.
So basically human DNA was actually put here on this planet by an alien race and modified and manipulated it, and it was actually derived from their DNA. It was something along those lines. So it was
Human
already
chromosome
there.
2. I looked it up. You know
Right,
about human chromosome 2, number 2? Are you going that way? It appears that it's been genetically manipulated.
right,
When they look at human chromosome number 2, I was trying to get the citation right. People have alleged that there's signs. It looks like it has been like grafted.
right.
Have you seen that?
No,
You
no,
can
it's the
pull
first
it
time
up.
I hear
It's
of it.
human chromosome number 2. I came across it came across me one
Wow.
time, and I didn't look at it in depth. I just pulled it up on Meta AI. Appears to be genetically altered due to a fusion event that occurred in the human evolutionary lineages. So this is giving me a physicalist explanation. Well, if it
Right,
wasn't that, then it was by intelligent beings, right?
right. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is trying to, this is trying to, so there, in other words, physicalists admit that there seems to be a manipulation involved in human chromosome number 2,
yeah.
but they try to explain it through physicalism. Occurred in human evolutionary lineage. This fusion is believed to have happened between two ancestral chromosomes, similar to chimpanzee chromosomes 2A and 2B, which are now represented as a single chromosome in humans.
So it's
Well,
just,
that to me looks like genetic manipulation,
yeah.
not some
No.
blind event.
Yeah,
But the Meta AI is sticking with the blind event explanation, of course,
right.
for programming.
Blind watchmaker.
But I come on, man, when you really,
Yeah.
I've looked at the images. It
Wow.
looks like it's been consciously tampered with to
Yeah.
me.
Genetically altered, basically, to serve some
Human
kind of
chromosome
purpose.
number 2.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, and so it looks like a fusion, and it involves chimpanzee. Well, people claim that the Anunnaki came here, found existing, evolved primates on the planet, and combined their DNA with its DNA. It came up with human beings to work the earth. Well, that's Genesis. Adam and
Yeah.
Eve were workers. They were their purpose was to work, not be like the gods. Workers. They were supposed to not be as smart and have the access that the gods had. They weren't meant to. That's what we're seeing in Genesis. The
Yeah.
Elohim said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness," and then to tend to the garden. The garden, it could be a metaphor for the planet Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
You
right.
know, and this monoatomic gold that I'm talking about. You know how they have rumors about South Africa and Anunnaki and alien races using early primitive forms of human to mine for gold and stuff. And when I first heard that, I thought, well, what is aliens? What? Come on, gold.
Gold.
Come on, monetary.
Yeah.
What do aliens need with gold?
Yeah.
And then I heard, well, it might be part of their technology. They might use it on their spacecrafts. And I was like, well, okay, it's a little warmer.
Yeah.
And then I found out about monoatomic gold and how they do alchemy and cook it into a powder and ingest it and become damn near immortal. Then I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's a deeper reason for wanting monoatomic gold, and that the alchemy that the Knights Templar have is supposed to date back to that kind of a thing,
Yeah.
and that it had been preserved and passed along, and that was the mana in the Bible and Mani in other cultures,
Yeah.
and that the long lives and the elixir of immortality and all that. So, I mean, I'm off into wild speculation here, but it's not that wild. I mean, for crying out loud, we everything is a great big mystery. We don't actually know what it is. It could
No,
be any
we
number
don't.
of things,
Yeah.
So I'm just going to recite some of these Hermetic tales that
Yeah.
I'm
Do you
aware
remember?
of that cross section aliens.
You know something? Do you remember the time when people used to say Earth is the only planet in the solar system that contains water, and then all of a sudden we start to find frozen water on the moon, on Mars.
Water,
There's
yeah,
evidence of oceans. There's Europa, the moon of Jupiter, that
yeah.
contains a massive ocean beneath the surface, and now they know this
They
because
always
of gas.
undershoot.
Yeah, it's
They
crazy.
always underplay. They always underdo it
Yeah,
when they're speculating, right?
yeah,
It's like all these speculations turn out to be wrong systematically all the time.
yeah,
Or that we're the only things that are conscious and animals aren't conscious. Well, that's already blown out of the water.
yeah,
And
exactly.
with Kastrup, anything that metabolizes is conscious, all the way down to anything that does metabolism. There's something that it's like to
To
be
be
a metabolizing entity.
absolutely.
That's where we're at now. Once upon a time, that even the dogs weren't conscious. That
Yeah,
even the primates weren't conscious. Ridiculous. You
yeah.
know, they're
People
conscious
used
of
to.
something.
That's right. And they used to downplay or even ridicule the idea of making gold from a crucible, the philosopher's stone. And I don't know if you heard recently at the Large Hadron Collider, they accidentally made some gold by smashing some particles together. And they said they don't
I
know
think I
how it
saw that.
happened, but by accident, because there's so many ways in which they can collide them, by accident, gold was formed, bits of gold was formed, and they couldn't believe it. And they were like, well, if we wanted to, according to them, I don't know. I mean, there's some conspiracy theory to be made from that, but they said, according to,
That.
we made it by accident. If we were to recreate this experiment, we probably couldn't do it because there's so many ways in which the particles can interact. There's so many possibilities. I mean, that's feasible, but you can almost imagine someone saying, well, they figured out how to make gold, and now it's an opportunity to manipulate the markets, to manipulate the economy,
Yeah.
and maybe they're saying that because they don't want the enemies out there to know, other nations like Russia, China, and whatnot. But
To make gold.
yeah, but it's been confirmed that from smashing hadrons together at that Large Hadron Collider, they made
Yeah.
bits of gold. It came out. It just, you know, and it's
Wow.
possible,
I think I saw that headline somewhere.
Yeah, because if you think of everything being ripples, it's bound to happen that it's going to form ripples that um, make up gold, what we call gold in our perception. Gold, it
Oh,
forms gold. and everything vibrates, and it's created that same structure from other different types of um,
Isn't
ripples, as it
isn't
were.
gold
If you
cooked in
imagine particles as
stars?
ripples, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
How does it go? How do we think gold is normally made? Isn't it manufactured in stars
Yes,
as
that's
part
right.
of a star? And then
That's right. Yeah.
how do we get gold?
Yeah.
That's
So
how, right?
yeah. So basically, they say gold can be made in the hearts of supernovas because there's so much pressure, and
Yeah,
when it explodes, it forms all sorts of different elements, and they collapse in on themselves, and then they start to form really complex elements. You know, way more complex than say carbon, oxygen. Like hydrogen, helium. So it forms gold, and it can form diamonds as well. It can form diamonds. But yeah,
and
gold,
then
because gold, it takes a lot of pressure to make gold. It can only happen in the hearts of supernovas. That's what they used to believe, right? But the
yeah,
thing is, on planet Earth, if you have intelligent beings that can create hadron colliders and smash and do
yeah,
experiments that smash particles together, subatomic particles, they've demonstrated that it can also happen on Earth intentionally.
yeah,
Intentionality. There you go. You know, there's an intention behind the initial intention was to learn more about the subatomic world, to see what they can get from smashing particles together. Obviously, they want to look at the outcomes. They want to learn,
yeah,
you know, but the unexpected result from that particular collision
yeah.
that was on the news was the making of gold. And
That's alchemy. That's like philosophers. That's like,
yeah,
it's, some, something to gold,
yeah,
It's not exactly lead to gold the way they're doing it, but it's like the metaphor of lead to gold,
yeah, it's
literally.
proper alchemy. All of a sudden, the idea of the philosopher's stone doesn't sound so ridiculous because they've done it.
Ah,
It's right there. They don't know exactly how they did it, but they did it. You know?
unless they do and they're not saying. I guess you were insinuating that.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless they
I
do know,
mean,
but they don't want to say because they
that's
don't
a
want the
possibility.
enemy
Yeah,
to get
they
it.
don't want to say. And in this day and age, I mean, anyone can be manipulated. Anyone can be
Yeah,
influenced. It's scientists, politicians, everyone. No one's immune to manipulation because at the end of the day, it's very much about power, isn't it? Power and
yeah.
control with our governments.
Well, but I'll probably have to get off here in a little bit. But on a good note,
Yeah,
I've got some stuff to do this afternoon. But when we're saying that idealism could change the world, it could change that, right?
it certainly can.
Idealism has, as a philosophy, has the a potential
Yeah,
to change that, so that we're not thinking like that on individual levels. And if we're not thinking like that, then we're not bullying people. We're not bullying others. We're not making wars. We're not concerned with scarcity. We don't think of resources as scarce.
that's right.
You know, like I really, in closing, somehow through all of this push to promote idealism that you and me and all these other people are involved in, I mean, what's our goal in the end? It's to help humanity, right? I mean, this
Yeah,
isn't just like for scientific and philosophy reasons. This is for society.
yeah,
This is for people.
yeah. And we're
This is to
helping
make the
people with
world
the
a better
truth.
place.
Yeah,
Through the truth,
yeah,
making the world a better place, right? I mean,
yeah,
it seems important to me. It seems important to you. We're
yeah,
at this every day of the year. We spend some amount of our day trying to get through to people
yeah. Absolutely, man. I really believe
in
that.
our free time.
Yeah,
Because even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I feel like I'm doing the right thing to take the steps towards the world being a better place now while I'm
yeah,
alive in this life.
yeah.
And we probably do reincarnate. So here's the thing:
For our
if
kids.
we reincarnate, it's in our best interest to pay it forward so that we don't reincarnate into a horrible, hellish world
Yeah,
that has, pollution, is too warm, any
yeah,
number of things, right? I mean, there's incentive here through idealism and reincarnation ideas and hermetics and Vedic traditions to be
Absolutely.
incentivized in making the world a better place and playing, doing everything we can now
Yeah.
so that future reincarnations don't have to experience hell on earth.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's
That's the
for a
way
good
I see it.
cause. Definitely. It's for a good cause.
This
And
isn't a one-off thing,
yeah,
we'll be back
we will. We will.
till we achieve whatever's meant to be achieved to not come back, which we
Yeah.
don't know. It's unknown to us. We're going to
Yeah.
come back as many times as we need to, according to this thinking, until our soul has been alchemized through all of this.
Yeah.
We're doing alchemy in the soul. We're cooking ourselves internally and stuff through all this turmoil and through life
Yeah.
experience and through series of different lives
Yeah.
that
Life's
is
crucible. Yeah.
and then at some point maybe we ascend into a higher plane where it's not like this,
Yeah.
what we're experiencing here and all this brutality and whatnot. But we are here now, so I probably we're supposed to be here,
Yeah.
and we're working out things that are meant to be worked out inside of each of ourselves.
Yeah.
And when the time is right, we will ascend. These
Yeah.
people are in a
And
hurry
when
and
we
they
will,
think, I'm going to
when we
break the
ascend, it will
cycle.
become
I
clear, I
won't
think.
reincarnate. You'll reincarnate until you're jolly well ready to not reincarnate. That's
Yeah.
that's what I say to that.
Yeah.
Don't stress on it. Take it for what it is. Do the best you can. We have free will choices to make, apparently. So we just go ahead and make our free will choices and aim for doing the best you can
Yeah.
in your life. And then you will
Absolutely.
die, which isn't really dead. And
Yeah.
then you will probably reincarnate,
Yeah. You know what? Before I let you go, what's it called? The comedy series with Larry David.
uh,
Oh man.
I'm drawing a blank too.
Oh man. We're gonna be kicking ourselves after this.
Yeah, no, it's like on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. He has an NDE basically, and he goes to heaven and he meets Marilyn Monroe and it's like a Gentile heaven, and he's got a
Yeah,
head full of hair,
Jewish
and
show. Yeah, I was thinking of the
and
right show.
yeah, and he gets back, and when he gets back, he's disappointed because he's bald again, and it's a joke, but he says something like, "Oh, when you're up there, you're your best self." And there is some truth to that, because I really
Yeah,
do think everything becomes clear, and your mind expands and you acquire more knowledge if we go by NDE reports. And it makes sense. It makes metaphysical sense. But yeah, it's just funny because he gets back, and typically when after you've had an NDE, it changes your life. It changes the way you feel about life. People's personalities change. But with Larry David, it just went back to being the same character, and he was disappointed that he didn't have that head full of hair anymore. In heaven everything was perfect. He gets back and he's bald again. So it's a silly joke, but it's quite profound at the same time. But yeah,
yeah.
what's the name of the program?
Boy, I drew a blank at the same time.
Yeah,
It was a comedy series. You know what? I mean, it has literally been on the tip of my tongue.
yeah. It's funny, isn't it?
We
We know that
know,
we know,
but
but
we
we
can't
don't know.
say. Oh,
There's some kind of
that's driving me crazy
dissociation
too.
going on there. Kastrupian dissociation now in
Yeah,
our heads. We've put it to the back of
yeah.
our heads.
I'm trying to recover it, and I'm not.
Oh
But could I
man,
cheat?
I tell you what, shall I look
Are
it
we
up
gonna
very
cheat?
quickly? Oh, where
We
is
have
it?
to cheat it. Yeah,
Oh
I'm gonna
my,
feel like, oh,
yeah.
when I,
So Larry David, curb your enthusiasm.
that's it.
That's
That's
it.
it. Curb your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I didn't see that episode, but it sounds funny.
Yeah, no, it really does sound funny, and the thing is, he did something good for a change, because there's the other character. His name is so selfish. That guy, he goes on holiday. He doesn't care. He actually says to Larry, "Oh, I'm dying. I need a new kidney." So Larry goes to the hospital. He doesn't want to do it, right? But finally, he comes round to. I think his wife says, "Yeah, do something good for a change." So he goes to the hospital to have his kidney removed. to give it to his friend, and his friend goes to the beach. He doesn't even, and he's dying in hospital. His wife is there. The friend who doesn't like him very much. They're all there, thinking he's about to die. He has the NDE. He goes up to heaven, and he wants to talk to Marilyn Monroe, and all of a sudden he gets yanked back, and Marilyn Monroe is like, "Oh, David," and it's time for him to go back. But he's happy in heaven.
Don't
But
go.
the whole time that he's nearly died, his friend didn't give a shit. The one friend that he tried to give his kidney to, he was at the beach, and he completely missed the whole thing. But yeah, he comes back and he's all like, "Ah, oh, I'm
Maybe I'll
bored
go
again.
find it.
What the what the fuck is going on here? I'm back." You know, and then he ends up saying to people, "Oh, that was a good experience. You're your best self up there." It's something funny like that. You have to watch it. But yeah, it's interesting that they
The
included
higher self.
the NDE on that show. Maybe it's a personal belief of Larry David's. Maybe he's looked this stuff up. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Pretty funny.
funny, but also quite interesting. Yeah, but if you
Yeah.
haven't watched it, I don't want to ruin. I probably ruined it for you
I
now.
might go look it up and go see what it's what just go to YouTube or something and go try to find it.
Yeah, it's well worth it. It's definitely worth it, especially if
Because
you
my
like
my
NDE.
brother watched that series, and I used to see it when I was at my brother's house sometimes.
Yeah,
I didn't see that episode,
yeah. No, watch it.
but I
Definitely
remember
watch
it.
it. Yeah, because it's funny. And I remember being really cross with his friend who went to the beach. I can't remember the name of the character, but it's the guy with the dark hair, slightly long, shoulder length. He's got many wrinkles. I think the actor passed away actually, but yeah, he's selfish. He's Larry's selfish friend basically. Yeah, but I think he exaggerates his condition, and Larry ends up going to hospital, then having a kidney removed, and he nearly dies basically. So he has the
No, the writers,
yeah,
they
but
had
it's
fun with that one.
yeah, they had fun with that. Yeah, it's just funny that he missed his hair. He had a head full of hair. He was all happy in heaven, and then he gets back and he's like, "Oh, I'm bored. What's this?" He's well pissed off when he gets back.
That's kind of like Kastrup's, going off to the void and then beyond the void to the fractal reality. Because he said when he came back, the
Yeah,
body, he was depressed for like a
depressed.
week to be
Yeah,
back,
yeah,
because it was so good
yeah.
out of
People don't want
body
to return, do
that
they?
it feels so confined to be, use this expanse that he was out in, and then back to this little
Yeah,
confined body. And
yeah,
he talked about that in some interviews where, yeah, he just kind of it was in a depression for a while coming back.
yeah.
That's because it was so great when you were out.
Yeah, it's great. And sometimes you get back and your own family thinks you're going crazy. I think it was in Bruce Grayson's book After. There was a woman who had an accident and she nearly died. And basically, she practically said, "It's like I became more knowledgeable. There was a wider reality, and then I returned and all that knowledge didn't fit in my tiny head." And one of the first things she said to her mum and sister who were at the hospital when she woke up was, "Oh no, I'm a tiny brain again." And the mother and the sister were looking at her confused and they thought she was going crazy, but those were her exact words. "Oh no, I'm a tiny brain again." And it just makes you think. It's like you're constricted from that perspective, and then you return. It must be a massive difference. It's almost like a
Yeah,
big disappointment when you get back. But then again, once
because
you
of the
go about your
filters.
business, yeah, then you come to love
There's
life in a
filters.
different way. Yeah,
Because of species specific perceptions.
yeah,
Going back to Donald Hoffman, we're actively filtering out so much information in the ether all the time.
yeah,
That's what I take as the little brain.
yeah,
After being out in the big brain.
yeah,
Well, think about, when you're out, there's so much. You're in the information field, and then when you're in here, you're largely shielded off
Yeah,
from the ether, from the information field, you know,
that's right.
because of species specific perceptions in
Yeah,
evolution, according to Donald Hoffman's,
yeah.
theory.
And once you return to your avatar, you have to be prepared to be less again, to be less.
Yeah,
From the
yeah.
perspective of being more, all of a sudden, you have to return to being just a tiny human again.
In my
And then
case, it was welcome. In the case where I was
in
like
your case, it
losing
was welcome. Yeah,
identity, I wasn't ready to lose identity. So I wasn't depressed to come back.
yeah,
I had anxiety about leaving. That's what
right.
at 26 or 7, I had
Yeah,
anxiety about drifting out of body
yeah.
more so than coming. I was happy. I was okay to be back in body because
As a young man, you were still excited about life and
I
lots of
wanted
things
to
to
have a
do.
family. I wanted to
Yeah,
experience life.
that's right. That's right. That's
So
amazing, man. That's amazing.
it wasn't depressive when I had the comeback part. It
Yeah,
was a little bit different, but I wasn't out that long either. I think people that have this rich experience out of body, I
yeah.
think if I had an elongated, rich, lengthy experience out of
Then
body,
it
I
might have
probably
been a
wouldn't
different
have come
story.
back. I think I would have. I just had a glimpse of it and got scared
Yeah,
in my case.
yeah,
The way it seems to me, if we were to put it to a time thinking,
yeah,
it was like I had a brief glimpse, got scared, and came back.
yeah.
That's the way it felt.
Right. You had a glimpse of
I
the
wasn't out there a long time.
yeah, like
I
an
was not. It
unknown.
didn't seem like a long time out of body. It seemed brief.
Yeah.
And
And
then I
it's
knee
almost like a
jerk.
new leaf on life, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a glimpse of that, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I don't want to go yet. I'm thankful for this. I want to carry on. I
And
want to
how
live
did I
my
do
life.
it? I'm still thinking about it. How do you pull back? I did. I pulled back. So it's all mental. I
Yeah,
mentally pulled myself back.
there's an
There's
intention
no other
behind
way to
it.
do it. It was a mental experience. But I
Yeah,
had the power. What's amazing to me is that I had the power to bring myself back in
yeah.
through will, right?
Through
And it's
will.
not a blind will.
It's not a
What
blind
else
will.
could it be other than the
Yeah.
will, like Schopenhauer's will?
Schopenhauer
I
needs
did have a
correction.
will. There was a will to come back and make sure that I got to experience life, that I had, family and all that. I was a
Yeah,
bachelor. I wasn't exactly happy about it. I felt like I'm a family man from a family of family men going way
yeah,
back. I'd never had this idea that I would never get married and run around like a freaking player all my life with no wife, and no
yeah,
family. I got friends that aspire in that direction. I never had that aspiration. I wanted to be family man. I saw myself as being, growing up and being a dad and a husband and a grandpa, and here I am. You know, I'm a
that's
grandpa
it.
now.
And it's a meaningful life.
I've got to do it.
Yeah,
It's not a rush. The way I tell people that want to get out of this world, it's
yeah,
not a big rush. You
yeah,
are going to get out of this world. There's no way that you're not going to.
yeah,
You are going to get to a point, and you are going to pass away and transition to the other side, and you may come back.
yeah.
You know,
And right
over
now,
and
you
over,
guys are enjoying your granddaughter, aren't you? Yeah, and
a
she's
big time, big. You know
yeah,
how now I understand. Now I've got direct, firsthand acquaintance
yeah,
of being grandpa, and it's good. I
yeah,
love it. I'm interacting with the baby because of how I am with consciousness. I see the baby as consciousness coming into the interface, you
yeah,
know, and I understand that the baby, for all I know, could be an old soul
yeah.
coming in.
You never
You know
know.
why I think that about the baby? The baby is advanced for a baby.
Wow.
I see such advancement in this baby that it makes me have the feeling that the baby could be an old soul.
She's making you proud, man.
Okay,
Sounds
yeah,
like it.
I am going to have to. We got some stuff to do this afternoon.
Of course, yeah. I'm gonna let you
Yeah,
go.
let's get Donald Hoffman. Let's do a lot of these. All right, we can let's keep coming up with things and ideas.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I've got my YouTube channel for Hermetic Idealism has sat for like 2 years unused. So
Yeah,
if I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna try to activate it. I'll go put some of the chi prana practice on
yeah,
there and
yeah,
decorate it with some content
yeah,
and maybe some other talks that I've given or
yeah,
whatever. But then I need to bolster the Hermetic Idealism
yeah.
channel on YouTube as well.
Yeah,
I'm
feel
probably
free
going
to
to get
share this
back to that.
on your channel, man. I
Well,
mean,
we could share it to my channel. Okay.
yeah,
Because I'm going to
yeah,
go ahead, you got, and then just so
yeah,
the audience knows, you and I are co-running a whole bunch of social media.
yeah.
Like
That's right.
we're co-admin Experiential Realism on Facebook.
That's one.
We're
Yeah,
co-admin the Hermetic Order of 21st Century
Century
Idealists
Idealists.
on Facebook. We're co-admin the Advanced Fans of Donald, I mean, the fans of Donald Hoffman
Yeah, yeah,
on
that's right.
Facebook, as well as the advanced fans of
Of
Bernardo
Bernardo
Kastrup.
Castro.
And that's just because so many people don't understand him that
Yeah,
it was necessary to make a group of those that do understand it at a more advanced level. This
yeah,
isn't arrogance, just to let people know, but there is the advanced fans. So, Arlindo and I co-admin all of that, and then we help out with countless other platforms. So
that's right.
you
Yeah,
can find us.
yeah. And these idealists were crucial in making me see that idealism is far more compelling than materialism. They
Yeah.
are actually responsible, especially Donald Hoffman at the beginning. He's really the one that made me have a paradigm shift. And then I discovered Bernardo Kastrup, and then he answered a lot of questions for me to do with dissociations and the mind at large. And through him, I actually found out about Aldous Huxley, who's the person who actually came up with the mind at large
Oh, you got
concept.
Huxley through them.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got it through a different way, and then I found them later. But yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
Joseph Campbell or something. I got it from Campbell.
I like Joseph Campbell as well,
Yeah,
and the Jungian
he cited
psychology and the
Huxley.
archetypes, yeah, and
Yeah.
the hero with a thousand faces, yeah.
Hmm.
I still have to read that book. I've read reviews about that book and I've seen videos about it, but I really want to read that book because
It's
it's
a good book. It's not actually my favorite because it's more old fashioned than the later stuff, but
right,
it's good. Thou Art That is a good book.
right. I have to look at his
Tatvamasi,
bibliography. Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. East Myths of Light, Eastern Metaphors of the Eternal, another favorite.
that sounds
Yeah.
good.
All right,
That
man.
sounds
I
good.
do. Pamela's calling me.
No problem. Take care,
All
Stephen.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you. All
speak to
right.
you soon again.
All right, man.
Nice one. Take care.